Let me tell you.
Welcome to TexAgs.
TexAgs Live.
I feel like I should be listening to the theme song from the Jeffersons. You know, we're moving on up.
We will develop men, we will graduate players, and we will win championships on the field.
The best way for us to win is to do it together.
He is a guy that has gotten better and better and better. He's just got that dog in him.
This one's special. The 12th man this past week was unbelievable.
100% ready to go. It's been a long time coming, and I just can't wait to be out there.
That's why we play football in the SEC, trying to go get it done.
You know, if I'm betting on anybody, it's the Aggies.
We look forward to look back the most meaningful game at Kyle Field coming up this weekend since I've been at TexAgs. I forgot how Billy framed it yesterday on the Luchador, but basically the biggest game since when? Since they've entered the SEC?
Was it 2016 when they were 4-0 in the SEC and had just beaten Tennessee, I think, and Alabama was coming to town. I think, if I might be off on that, but if that's the case, then that's the game I might think of. Or maybe they were going to Alabama. I don't know.
At this point of the season, though, midway, more than midway, right?
More than midway.
Meaningful with the biggest impact and implications. Billy said yesterday on the Luchador that whoever wins this game is in pole position for Atlanta.
Yes, without a doubt. In fact, I still say, I'm going to say if you can win the next two,
yep,
you're going to be in. But I think the more difficult opponent is LSU. Now, South Carolina's doing some great things, and they're tough to beat there. But if you can beat, you definitely have the pole position if you beat LSU. I think you're in, because I just don't see a scenario where they lose even on the road to Auburn. And you win the next two, you're going to finish no worse 10-2. Yeah.
Still a big if. That being said, let's talk about the Mississippi State game, because there's different ways people are looking at this one.
Mm-hmm.
Some people are like, and by the way, I'm all these people rolled up into one.
Right.
Okay?
Uh-huh.
Some look at it like, man, like, you play like that against LSU, you're going to lose.
That's right.
Okay?
That's correct.
Also, you're not going to play like that at Kyle Field, in my opinion.
Well, you hope not.
You hope not, yeah.
Well, they did against Notre Dame.
Also, you played like that and won by double digits against a team that I think has found something offensively. First drive, they pulled out all the stops.
Boy, they sure did.
Right? 2 fourth downs, a third down conversion, and they got their 7 points. Their quarterback, I think, is destined to be really, really good. I don't know if star is the word I want to use, but I really like Michael Van Buren. I like him a lot.
He definitely has a lot of ability. He threw for 306 yards the previous week against Georgia.
Yep.
And you can say, well, a lot of that was late, but they were still, they were still playing. So, I think Michael Van Buren is a rising, I don't want to say, like you said, star, but I think he's an emerging player that's going to be he's showing the signs. I mean, he's going to be a good college quarterback, and maybe better than good.
And I heard from a lot of people, mostly Texas fans, by the way, but from a lot of people like, dude, you guys cannot win with Connor Wigman throwing interceptions like that. True. You're not going to win a lot of games if you lose the turnover battle. That is true. But look around college football. Okay? Did Quinn Ewers struggle?
I think he did.
Okay, did they bench him for a little bit? Or let him sit on the bench and regather his thoughts whenever was afraid? Okay. Carson Beck, did he struggle a little bit?
Looks to me like you can only win if you throw a lot of interceptions if it's against Texas.
Well, there you go. Jalen Milroe, is he struggling a little bit?
He's struggling.
Okay. Jackson Dart's had his issues at times.
Yeah.
I guess my point is, yeah, you're right. Connor, we'd like to have those throws back. Okay? And I'm not making it okay by pointing out the fact that a lot of quarterbacks in college football right now are struggling. Now, Nussmeyer's looks like he's playing really well at this moment. I haven't looked totally into his stats, but he's playing at a pretty good level. Nico, in the Alabama game, there were 2 Nicos that showed up. Nico struggled. Nico made the throws. Like, both guys showed up.
Well, yeah, you could even say that about Connor too.
Yeah.
He was really sharp to open the game. In the first 2 series, I thought he was really good. And then he had an interception where he could have run for a first down. And look, he saw, I think it was Watson come open, and he threw high and behind him. Interception, he saw a guy open, just made a bad throw. And it was another bad throw, maybe late.
Yep.
When he gifted Mississippi State a touchdown with an interception on the 11. Personally, I thought they shouldn't have been throwing there. You had 2nd and 6. I thought we're gonna run it down your throat now like we did in Florida. But it's bad interception. And then he came back and he had some throws that helped him go down and score. So you could say that about Connor too. But let's be honest. We said that he was probably somewhere between Notre Dame and what he did against Missouri, and he was. But let's be honest, he was closer to Notre Dame than he was Missouri, the 2 interceptions. So in the bigger games, I don't know, maybe Mississippi State was doing some things that confused him because he had 2 throws on one drive that were pick sixes, and the guys dropped them, thank goodness. So Connor, yes, and he'll tell you this, he has to be better. And if he goes out and plays closer to what he did against Missouri, against LSU, then I'd be very confident.
Right, no doubt about it. By the way, you're probably confused with what you're watching right now. This is TexAgs Live. We are presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. We are in the Rollo Insurance Studio. It is the Go Hour presented by the Warehouse at CC Creations, and we are at the Holistic Planning Cool Zone.
Cool Zone. Yeah, the Cool Zone. Cool. You know who's cool?
Who's that?
On Saturday? Scooby Williams.
Scooby,
man. What a great game he had. It was actually Torian York did too. The linebacker play was probably the best for an entire group that I've seen all year.
They played well.
And probably the best I've seen, excluding anything that Edgerrin Cooper did last year. Probably the best I've seen the linebacker corps play in years.
By the way, I think Scooby's going to be part of the ultra wealthy one day when he becomes an NFL player, hopefully for him. But you and me, we're normal people. Apparently, you can invest in pro sports, and you can just be a normal dude. Check out investinprosports.com. That is, of course, our good friends at Holistic Planning. All right, OB, let's revisit. I don't know if you'll remember yours, but I remember my 3 things I wanted to see, okay? And I don't really remember them. I just wrote them down. So here we go. I was kind of wrong this weekend, okay?
Yeah.
I wanted to see clean football. Don't think we got clean football.
Didn't see it.
Yeah, we got some turnovers, okay?
Too many penalties.
This next one, I'm going to say maybe. And because I expected so much domination. I don't know if we got domination from it, but we did win. And I wanted to see exposing their weakness, owning the line of scrimmage. I think A&M owned the line of scrimmage.
Defensively.
Right? And I think the offensive line protected Connor. Like they struggled running early, right? But I don't know if it was to the level that I wanted to see. Because, again, anytime there's stats that are presented, the worst offensive line in football, this team can't stop anybody running the ball. Then apparently that is trigger words for A&M is going to struggle here for a little bit. That's what happened.
It does seem that way.
So, but I think they did own the line of scrimmage. It just wasn't the domination that I was expecting owning the line of scrimmage.
I thought the defensive line controlled the line of scrimmage. I thought the offensive line struggled to get the running game going, so I couldn't say that they owned the line of scrimmage. I thought I saw too many 3-yard runs. Now, and then when they did get big runs, I think Le'Veon had a 30-yard run and a 38-yard run called back for penalties. And we can debate whether or not, or the legitimacy of those penalties.
They were bad.
But they were still called. So, so I was going in thinking Mississippi State had the worst run defense in the conference. A&M's second in rushing, that A&M was going to go out and just push them around, and that didn't happen.
That did not happen. And then the third thing I said, and I was wrong, was a special team score. Still looking for that.
Yeah, but there was. I can almost say you were right. I can almost say you got it.
Tell me how.
Okay, because, and by the way, I called this. You could ask Brett Zerneman. Mississippi State, what they do? Fake punt.
Oh yeah.
And Miles Davis was all over it.
Did you call it in the press box?
I did. I said to
because I called it here in front of these folks. So
I said to Brent Zerneman, who was sitting to my right, I said, I wouldn't be surprised right here. No, I said, I would be looking for a fake punt here because Mississippi State's been doing a lot of crazy expletive all day, and this would be the time to do it. And there they did it. And you know what? Miles Davis was all over it. So they get the stop.
Yep.
They take over at, I think, the 29-yard line and give the special teams. They don't score directly, but they score indirectly because they set up A&M and field position. Or did they get a field goal there? I thought it was a touchdown. They might have gotten a field goal there. I'd have to go back and double check. But the special teams indirectly provided a score.
Special teams or the play call was not right. By the way, I said this yesterday. I'll say it to you. Kirby Smart going forward on 4th and 1 at the end of the game. I didn't think that was a smart play at the end. I didn't either. I didn't think.
I was thinking Lebby was watching video of the Arkansas game when the Arkansas punter, runs for the first down, and he's saying, "Look, A&M bails out on the return, and since it's in our end of the field, they're especially going to bail, so we're going to take off."
Yeah.
I think that's what he was thinking. And now Miles Davis stayed home. Good job, Miles.
Where does, and I wrote down some of my list, okay? And I might be wrong on this list. I'm not totally sold on 1 and 2, but where does Michael Van Buren rank in quarterbacks A&M has faced this year? Somewhere between 1 and 3 is what I was thinking. And I'll tell you what my order was before Michael Van Buren.
Okay.
I think Graham Mertz, maybe not against A&M.
He was pretty good against A&M.
Okay. 1. Riley Leonard, 2.
Okay.
Connor Bazelak, 3.
Okay.
Bowling Green.
Yeah.
Brady Cook, 4.
Now,
Brady Cook all season long has been better than that. But Taylor Green, the next one, although he was very good against A&M, at least with his... No, actually, he had his moments. And then Camden Six Killer was the last one.
Yeah. Now, are you basing on how good you think they are over the course of a season or about how they were against A&M?
I kind of did both in this.
Okay.
Like, if I were drafting a quarterback from this group, I think Graham Mertz would be the first one I would draft. But I thought Michael Van Buren is in the upper tier of what A&M has faced this year.
I think Michael Van Buren, based on what their performance against A&M, may be number 1.
Yep. But didn't do much in the second half.
No, A&M did some adjusting, but
94
but
total
there was
yards.
one play in particular. I have to go back and find it. This is in the second half, and A&M and he was under heavy pressure the whole game, and he got hit. And it looks like it's going to be a 10-yard loss. And then he maintained his feet, but he was stumbling backwards. And I think, okay, he's about to fall down.
He keeps his balance.
And he keeps his balance, and he starts running, and he completes a pass for a first down.
That's right.
He was doing stuff like that. That young man has a lot of ability.
I do want to go back to Connor for a moment before we go and say hi to the people. I think there was 2 Connors in this game because Connor was really good at times.
Mm-hmm.
He was pretty good in the first half. He was good on third down. A&M's play calling was absolutely great on third down, and they were, what were they, 9 of 14 in the game?
Yeah.
So Connor had his really good moments. He just had some throws he'd like to have back.
Yeah, 2 in particular, but there were maybe 4, even the ones that were dropped. Then we talked about pick sixes, but I thought Connor, it was funny because, like I said, he was closer to what he was against Notre Dame. Like if Notre Dame's 0 and Missouri is 100, he was probably somewhere around 40 to 45. Right? Just a couple of passes knocks that up to like 65 to 70%.
Yep.
And, maybe being at home will make a difference with that.
Hopefully it does. All right, if you want to be a part of the conversation, you can call us up on the Boss Firearms Hotline, or you can text us on the Little Sluggers text line. Speaking of Little Sluggers, age-appropriate baseball fundamental classes in Aggieland, Houston, Austin, Brenham for kids 2 to 8. Sign up for a free trial at cotosports.com. That is cotosports.com. We go around the room. We say hi to the people. We say hi to Nick Savage. Nick, we were just together here a few hours ago. What's up, buddy?
Yeah, howdy. Good morning, y'all. How are
Howdy.
y'all?
Good morning to you.
Well, Luke Evangelist, our stat keeper, tweeter extraordinaire, he had a really good tweet. I don't know if y'all saw this on Saturday, but He tweeted out, the SEC has played 31 conference games this season. Texas A&M is the only road team to win by double digits while losing the turnover battle, creating less big plays, and having more penalty yards. So
I did see that.
Just, scratching it out and finding a way to win. That's a big deal for Coach Elko. And like you mentioned, man, what a big game this Saturday. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, Nick pointing out the stat that Luke Evangelist had put out there about A&M, the only team to win a road game where they lost the turnover battle. They lost, what was the other one? Big plays. There was 3, and they still ended up finding a way to win the game.
Yeah, big plays.
And, remember that even championship teams very often, and especially a road game, but very often have a game or two where they have to win games where they don't play well.
Yeah.
And I'll take it back. SEC champion last year was Alabama, was it not? Remember that last game of the regular season when they beat Auburn, a bad Auburn team, and they had to win
that last play.
So it happens. Like I would be concerned about A&M and that performance, that overall performance, but I wouldn't be panicked by it.
I don't have do I have the stat here? I don't know if I have it here. But Hugh Freeze has a worse record than the previous head coach there. Why is his name escaping me right now?
The previous head coach, Brian Harsin.
Brian Harsin, thank you very much. At this point, through like 30 games or whatever it is, he's got a worse record. So there's that.
Well, maybe he's going to turn things around, but I'm skeptical, at least for this year.
Yeah. All right, let's go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Jackson Oxney is there. Jackson, good morning, buddy.
Good morning. How are you guys?
We're good, man. We're good. You're dressed very fashionable today. I like the shoes.
Nuño-esque. Thank you.
The chain, Team Jesus. Let's go.
Yeah, I try and color coordinate when I can.
Yeah.
Try to do my best.
What's going on in your world?
Yeah, so I did want to point out that the Aggies have been atop the SEC standings for 3 weeks in a row now. So that's
keep it going.
It's funny. I got a lot of people sending me screenshots. Look at the standings. It's cool. It is. It's cool to be in that conversation towards the end of October.
Yeah.
I would love to be a part of that conversation at the end of November. I would love, and then why not? Right?
Yeah, I would have waited a week
to send a screenshot.
To send the screenshots.
You think it affects the karma?
No.
Okay.
Don't affect. I'm just. It'll just mean a whole lot more to me if they're 5-0 with a win over LSU.
Well, look, LSU is better. I don't know if they are what they were against Arkansas, but their defense is definitely better than I thought they were going to be.
I was talking to someone just yesterday that was saying that they've gotten better on defense since Harold Perkins.
Yeah.
I'm saying, interesting. I wonder if it has anything also to do with that you've gotten better playing South Alabama
that could be
and Arkansas with a hurt quarterback and a hurt running back. And Mississippi moved the ball. It was just
they were dumb.
Their coach made some bad decisions.
Yep.
But they know they're the one that see the game, that team every game.
All that will be relevant once A&M wins. If they don't win, it doesn't matter.
That's true.
Jackson, one more. Let's go.
Yeah, so we got Texas A&M volleyball. They played this past Friday, and they unfortunately fell to number 23 Florida Friday night in 3 sets, but they bounced back yesterday afternoon in Reed Arena as Logan Lednicki reached 1,000 career kills. So shout out to Logan for that. And
every time we talk volleyball, Logan Lednicki is always all in it. She's always getting the props.
Yeah, that's because she's got 1,000 career kills.
She's a stud. And the Aggies claim their 4th conference win of the season, taking down Arkansas in 4 sets. And the team heads to Austin on Wednesday to face the Longhorns with first serve set for 7 p.m.
All right. Thank you very much, Jackson. Appreciate you. Obi, when we come back, we'll do the turning point. And I feel like we've got to give some conversation, some talking points about what happened in college football. Maybe something that happened 90 miles away.
Yeah.
And maybe what's happening in Tuscaloosa at the moment. Team there's a lot of storylines. What's happening in Norman?
Is anything happening in Norman?
Well, they just fired their offensive coordinator. Yeah,
I'm sure that's going to make a big difference.
Yeah. All right, we'll talk about that. But before we do that, don't get your money. All right? I want you to save money. Okay?
I'm trying to save money.
I want you to save money, but I want you to think about Prize Picks for a moment and realize, had you followed my lead, I actually don't know how I did. I need to check. But had you followed my lead, you'd have probably made some money because Prize Picks is about making that paper, buddy.
Yeah, but you told me not to get my money.
I just want you to think about stacking paper on paper and then keeping playing. Go to PrizePicks.com/TexAgs. Use the code TexAgs to receive $50 once you play in $5 lineups. What is PrizePicks? Pick 2 to 6 players, stat projections, and watch the winnings roll. You got to pick more than or less than. Simple.
So if you make the right picks, you get the prize.
You get the prize. That's why it's called Prize
I get it now.
Picks. Yeah.
Yeah.
Make that money. You can choose all Aggies. You can choose whatever sport you want to do. The WNBA. I know that OB was watching the New York Liberty.
Yes.
Is that who won? I think it was the New York Liberty.
Don't get me lying.
Or the NFL.
Yeah, no, I did watch some of that.
All right. Texans lose to the Packers.
Like last play field goal, right?
Yeah.
I was listening to that on the radio on the way back from the airport.
But you can pick whatever you want with PrizePicks.com/TexAgs. Use the code TexAgs. Get the $50 once you play in $5 lineups. It's PrizePicks. We're back on TexAgs Live. We're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. We are in the Rollo Insurance Studio. It is the Go Hour presented by The Warehouse at CC Creations. He's Olin Buchanan. I'm David Nuño, and we're having fun talking about an Aggies victory. How many in a row?
6 in a row.
Let's make it 7.
Yeah.
Let's make it 7.
I wish I could do that on the lottery. Get 6 in a row.
Yeah. Right now, I'm more concerned about Aggie football than you winning the lottery. But I mean, by all means, I'm sure you'll take me to 1775 later if you do.
Oh, absolutely.
Let's talk about the turning point in this game. And I don't know if there really is one.
I know what you're saying.
I mean, for me, it was the 3rd and 20, whatever. Trey Watson leaping the defender in the third quarter. For me, like, that was a crucial point of the game. They ended up scoring. Let me see if I have my notes on here. I believe they scored a touchdown a couple plays later to take the lead 31-17. Third quarter, 3rd and 23. Yeah, Connor rolls out, and he finds Trey Watson. To me, that leads to a Le'Veon Moss touchdown. To me, like, I think that's the turning point. I wrote down a couple of notes as the game was going on. If A&M had lost the lead, or that could have been. But that 3rd and 23, I think, because if not, you're punting there, and there's an opportunity for Mississippi State to come back and tie the game. So that's kind of the one I picked, but like, I'm not sold on it, OB.
Yeah. Now, according to my notes, that was the 3rd and 23 as a 26-yard return. 26-yard gain, and that led to Randy Bond's field goal that put you up 24-17. So I was going to say the fake punt. The stop on the fake punt. Because once again, you had the ball at the 32, and the next play, it's a 17-yard completion on the sideline to Noah Thomas. And then they get a couple of nice runs, and they're looking at 3rd and 1 at the 6, and they picked that. I think there's an illegal substitution penalty, so it puts them at the 3, and then Le'Veon runs it in, and that gives you, there's 3 minutes and 24 seconds left in the third quarter, and you have a 2-touchdown lead. Right. Now, you would have hoped that they would just slam the door right there, but of course, there was the interception, and there was still some angst. So you could go back and say, hey, maybe it was Randy Bond's 44-yard field goal with 6:13 left in the game that made it a 2-score game again. Or even Scooby Williams' 4th down stop.
Yep.
But I think when the Aggies were able to take a 2-touchdown lead with just over 18 minutes left in the game, I think that put them in a position where you felt like, it'd be really hard to lose that game.
I never, not once, thought they were going to lose the game. There was not a. Now, I thought that.
I never thought that after they took a 2-touchdown lead.
I thought that Mississippi State, in a way, was kind of like Bowling Green, just never going away.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I felt about it. Like, just go away already. And go to bed.
Well, their big playability was spooking me.
Yeah. But neutralized in the second half.
A&M did especially against the run. What was it? Mississippi State had 100 yards rushing in the first half. Maybe that doesn't sound like a huge amount, but if I told you they did it again, if they had a 200-yard rushing game, you go, oh, that is a huge amount.
Right.
But A&M only gave up 25 rushing yards in the second half. They shut
it down.
They tightened it up. I came away feeling like the defense didn't play well. And then when you take a step back, they gave up 24 points, and 7 of them were really a gift from the offense.
Yep.
I'm not going to hold against the defense when the offense when they start at their own 11-yard line, right? So with all this angst about how the defense didn't play that well, and quite frankly, the stats show they gave up 24 points. Reality, they gave up 17.
And the reality is, 7 of those 17 were, and by the way, I'm not taking away the credit for it, but just you pulled out all the stops on that first drive.
They did.
So, credit to them for doing it, because that's how you stay in these kind of games. And then you hope for mistakes, which, by the way, A&M had a couple of those. And it was a brilliant job of Jeff Levy giving his team a chance.
I thought he coached to win, knowing that my team is not as good as theirs, and what have I got to lose? So if I need to go for it on 4th down, I'm going to go for it. If I need to let everybody carry the ball, I'm going to let everybody carry the ball. If I need to go for it on a fake punt, I'm going to go for it. I thought he showed a lot of intestinal fortitude. You know who also did? How about Mike Elko turning down a field goal to go for it on 4th down and throw it?
I was a little worried at the time.
At the time, I was like,
really?
This gives you I think it would have been a 17-10 lead, a touchdown. No. And he throws the fade. And it was going to be, I think it was throwing for Ja'Day Walker. And it's going to be a completion. It is. I mean, he's going to score a touchdown. And
you get the PI?
Even the most blindly loyal Mississippi State fan would have to say, oh, yeah, that was pass interference. And then it leads to a touchdown. So, man, our coach, he's not scared. I like that.
At 8:50, after we talk to Coach Sherrill, we'll probably get more into it. But what did you think about the play in the Texas-Georgia game? You know what play I'm talking about, the pick.
Yeah. Well, I watched it, and I thought that it should have been a non-call. I didn't. If that was A&M involved,
I'd be mad.
And that would have my corner. I said, but what are you looking at? So, but I would not have had 1 ounce of problem with it had another official came over after that play, like they did against Missouri with the Will Lee play, and say, no, I don't think so. And if
but that's not what happened.
No. When you call it and you move the ball, and then the fans are throwing everything on the field and all that.
And then you can see it on the replay, like, I guess we're wrong about this one, guys.
Yeah. Of course, maybe that happened when at the end of that 7 overtime game against LSU.
I'm not talking about that one right now.
Yeah,
right now I'm talking about
when they were saying, hey, Kellen's knee was on the ground.
But I think it sets a dangerous precedent. I think that they had spotted the ball already. You don't change it once you spot the ball. You just don't. You do it before you spot the ball. So they just messed up the entire thing.
It feels like they were influenced by the crowd.
Yep.
That's what it feels like. And the crowd was influenced by alcohol.
So my brother-in-law was at our house for that game. He's a Longhorn, and actually one of the cool ones. One who like
never met one, but all right.
But he felt that they were much better in the second half, and they were much better in the second half.
Yeah.
But I know that there was a couple of moments like, well, Texas is about to make this a game. Georgia dominated them. That's at the end of the day, Georgia dominated them.
Yeah, I think Texas pulled within 23-15, and Georgia just goes down and scores and says, okay, enough of this foolishness. I think, and it's funny how I'm seeing it seems like everybody in the SEC, every fan base was celebrating Georgia. I mean, how often is that going to happen?
Yeah.
But I think the bravado and their fans say, hey, yeah, we own this SEC and all this. I think the rest of the league has learned why Texas is so reviled by so many.
Yeah. And it just fits the narrative. If it had a direct effect on what was called or not, or what wasn't called, whatever, right? Like at the end of the day, it just fits the narrative. And I would be embarrassed if Kyle Field acted like that. But I'm not saying that's a Texas thing. That's a college football atmosphere. I don't think we'd see it here at Kyle Field. I hope we wouldn't see it here. Maybe a better phrase.
Yeah, I'd hope not. I don't think so. But yeah, to your point, remember Tennessee with Ole Miss, and
throwing stuff at Lane Kiffin,
mustard and golf balls, and I thought that was okay. They just need to have better aim.
Let's hit a break. We'll come back with Jackie Sherrill on the Boss Firearms Hotline. As I mentioned, OB, if you win a bunch of prize picks, which is possible, right?
Yeah.
I think you're good. You're doing pretty well in pick 6, right? Oh no, you're second to last place, and I'm in last place. But
I may be third to last now.
Okay. I think I had an okay week. I have to go back and check. But it doesn't matter. You make some money, and I look at you, OB, and I go, OB, I haven't eaten in months. I'm so hungry. Yeah. What are you going to do for me, OB? Please, I'm so hungry. You're so rich, and you win all the time on prize picks.
What we're talking about, if it was you?
If it was me.
It was you. If it was you, I'd say, hey, I'll tell you what, let's head out to 1775.
Yeah, really?
If it's Zane, I'd probably say, hit the road.
Jack.
But if it was, if it's somebody I like.
Yeah.
In fact, I don't even have to win big on prize picks. I just got to get paid. And I say, hey, man, you've been a good dude. Let's head out to 1775.
And I said, thank you, Mr. OB. Will you order for me? What do you think I should eat?
Oh, I said,
why is that Marlon Bando
I
fake
don't know.
voice?
Yeah. I'd say, first of all, you can't go wrong. But we're going to start with the brisket because it's amazing. And get some sausage in there. And, pork ribs. They're amazing. And then, of course, you got to.
Mr. OB, I need a side, please.
Yeah, you got to get.
Side, please.
Oh, well, there's several. But I'm going to tell you, it's the queso mac and cheese.
We're going to do this bit again, just for the record.
The queso mac and cheese. Have some queso because I say so.
Open Thursday through Saturday, 11 a.m. until they're sold out. Online ordering turns off at 10 a.m. 8203 Raymond Stosser Parkway in College Station. 979-492-6241. It's 1775 TX. BBQ.com. Please, Mr. OB, take me.
I love it.
We are back on TexAgs Live. We're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. Let's go to the Boss Firearms Hotline. Boss Firearms, your local expert. They buy used guns, ammo, accessories. Go to bossfirearms.com to start earning money like a boss. Today, we go to the hotline. We're joined by the great Jackie Sherrill here on TexAgs Live. Coach Sherrill, good morning, sir. How are you?
Doing good, thank you, and especially after the win, being 6-0 and 6-1 and being 4-0 in the conference. But the last half of the season, the last 4 conference games, LSU and then Southern Cal, Auburn, and Texas, that's a pretty good task.
Well, Coach Sherrill, I want to talk about that win, because going to Starkville and winning, anytime, you're good, you're bad, it doesn't matter. It's always a difficult place. They didn't play their A game. They walk away with a 10-point victory.
Well, yes. Anytime you're going into Starkville, most people think going to Starkville is check the box, it's a win, but it's a hard place to play. The Cowbells, even though the size of the stadium is not equal to Alabama or Tennessee or Texas A&M or Texas, it is just as loud.
Coach, what was your impression of this freshman quarterback? Because it seemed like sometimes we see freshman quarterback and we're expecting maybe him to have some trouble, but this guy, at least to me, showed a lot of ability.
No, he played very well, and he's watching him for the last 2 or 3 games. He has performed. I think the young man has a lot of talent. Now, on the 3 TDs, is that our lack of coverage, or is he that good? So I can't answer that until we really get down to playing LSU, and certainly, Southern Carolina has improved an awful lot, and certainly Texas will throw the ball. But to answer your question, the young man is a very good player.
So, Coach, as a coach, how would you react to a guy like that, having a nice game like that against you? And then you got an LSU coming up next. Does that make you, should people be really, how concerned should everybody be that A&M's defense, especially against the pass, can stand up to an LSU passing game, considering what they just saw last week?
Well, anytime, as a defensive coach, you're trying to eliminate one or the other. And I'll say this: it's very hard to say I'm going to stop an opponent both running and passing. So what you're trying to do is take away one or the other. And the first thing you want to take away as a defensive team or as a coach is the run game. Force them to throw the football. If you look at the winners around through the history, they were very high in run defense compared to pass defense because they stopped the run. If you go back and look at Georgia or Alabama in the last few years, their run defense was much better than their pass defense.
All right. Talking to Jackie Sherrill on the Boss Firearms Hotline. Let's talk about Connor, because I think there's 2 schools of thought. Some people defending, not some people, I'm reading it right now on our boards, Ag Engineering 12, defending how well he played, even though he had the picks. Obi thought it was a little closer to his Notre Dame performance.
Because of the picks?
Because of the picks. Where do you stand on what you saw from Connor?
I think Connor's getting better. I think, what's really helping the offense is Moss. And if they can rely on Moss, and Moss can continue to get the yardage and get some big plays running, then it's going to help Wickman. But the concern is you want to go back and say, okay, why did we have the 2 interceptions? And, what coverage were they in? What did mechanically, or did he read the wrong coverage? But I think, Wickman did not have a great game. He was only 15 for 25 for 217 and 2 interceptions. So you're not going to say that was one of his best games.
Talking to Jackie Sherrill here on TexAgs Live. Jackie, let's talk about Kyle Field there on Saturday as LSU comes in. the implications, how big of a game it is, how A&M matches up with LSU. I don't know how much you've been able to watch of them, but just your thoughts on this huge showdown on Saturday night.
Well, it's big because if you look in the SEC rankings, there's only 2 undefeated teams in the conference, and that's A&M with 4-0 and LSU 3-0. So one of the teams is going to come out 4-1. So hopefully we come out 5-0 and they come out 3-1.
Well, what do you feel like? This one I want to ask you. How much of a home field advantage? We feel like, Mississippi State, obviously, they have a home field advantage and they play better there. How much did you ever feel like Kyle Field was a home field advantage, especially in a game like this with so much at stake?
Well, I would say 7 points.
Really?
And because of the sound, how loud it is, but also the reaction of the fans. And, Kyle Field is a place where you're recognized for good play. And the teams, you go through the country and you say, okay, which stadium really knows football? And the fans react at the same time. The fans get behind you and get the noise level up when your opponents are trying to do some things. And you can go into a lot of stadiums and the fans are not football savvy and they don't know how to react and help the team.
That is our conversation with Jackie Sherrill, brought to you by Texas Best Home Loans. You trusted Jackie to lead the Aggies to Southwest Conference titles. Now, trust his son, Braxton Sherrill, to lead you to the best rates in home loans and refinancing at Texas Best Home Loans. Score better rates and lower fees with Braxton Sherrill at txbesthomeloans.com. Coach Sherrill, we appreciate your time, sir. Hope to see you here in studio at some point.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Jackie Sherrill here on the Boss Firearms Hotline. OB, this game Saturday, we're going to spend all week ramping up to get closer to it, but everything gets more meaningful with every win, right?
Absolutely.
You win this game, there's still way more at stake the rest of the way. You have not accomplished jack, but it stays on the mission.
Yeah, and it kind of reminds me, and I know Billy says it's the biggest game since whenever, but it kind of reminds me, and hopefully the result will be different, but when LSU came to town mid-season in October.
2012?
In 2012.
Yeah.
And I thought, I'll remember that. It felt like A&M, especially in the first half, dominated play and somehow, because of some turnovers, was trailing. And I think A&M lost a fumble and had 3 fumbles and 3 interceptions in that game, if my memory serves. And it was still, it missed maybe a field goal and an extra point.
Yep.
And still, it came down to LSU making a late play. So clean some things up from last week, and maybe this is going to be the biggest win in LSU against LSU ever.
When we come back on TexAgs Live, Kay Naegeli with Around Aggieland. Right now, as a reminder, the final segment of the show is brought to you by Double Dave's. That's at 10:50. But right now, caller number 12, 979-693-1150. We're going to hook you up with your choice of a dozen pepperoni rolls or a large one-topping pizza from Double Dave's. They've been serving Aggieland since 1984. They have your favorite pizza, of course, those world-famous pepperoni rolls. Reliable in-house delivery, bringing piping hot goodness straight to your door. Just click on Double Dave's, and your favorites are on their way. And as a reminder, they are not open on Mondays. We're back on TexAgs Live. We're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Time for Around Aggieland, presented by Normandy State Bank. Normandy State Bank, rock solid banking. The website is normandystatebank.com. And with that, we have the Kay Naegeli.
I got to watch a game with David in the office this week.
Any different than in the press box?
Actually, a lot more animated.
Am I really?
I wouldn't believe. Yeah.
I might have dropped a curse word or two. I try not to curse, but I definitely in that environment.
Well, you didn't tell the people, as you were predicting the plays before they happened, he went on like a 3-play heater.
I did.
Where he was
That's
like,
true.
Trey Watson, and it was the Trey Watson hurdle.
Yep.
It was kind of insane. He was having
I
some...
called the fake punt.
Yeah.
The Trey Watson, and then I forget what else, but yes, and then the pressure was on me. You guys, what's next? I was like, I'm tapping out.
You're like, I don't know. I'm not feeling it anymore. But yeah, as we know, number 14, they remain the same in the AP poll. A&M football will have a massive showdown against LSU after taking down Mississippi State. But want to get to some basketball. That is just right around the corner. The men's basketball team will face University of Houston next Sunday at 4 p.m. Tickets are live. They are on 12thman.com, so make sure y'all go and get your tickets for there. That will
6 days from now, Sunday, right?
Yes, that will be in Houston. I believe we're sending Luke Evangelist to cover that. So crossover season is right around the corner.
Get your tickets for that one, because let's not forget what's at stake here. Nothing's at stake from the big picture, but this is the team that eliminated you in the NCAA tournament. I love Kelvin Sampson. I covered U of H for many years. They're a phenomenal program. This is Buzz's year.
Yeah, that's a big one to start off. It's an exhibition. It doesn't count still, but a big one to kind of get the Aggies rolling.
I know we have ticket information on our website. We'll have some other details as the week pops on. And shout out to my buddy Martin Fox over there who's getting done. Anthony Walton, too. What else, Kay?
All right, let's stick it to some volleyball and soccer. So over the weekend, Logan Lednicki had a weekend. She tallied her 1,000th career kill. That is a massive accomplishment. I believe she is the 20th Aggie to do that. They got swept on Friday against Florida, but they did bounce back to have a comfortable 3-1 win over Arkansas on Sunday. They will now face the number 7 Texas Longhorns. Remember earlier in the season, the Longhorns stole one from them. They hope to get that one back. That game will be in Austin on Wednesday, first service set for 7 p.m. Also, got to get to one of my favorite sporting events that is happening on this campus. How about Aggie softball over the weekend? It was just an exhibition match, but they took down Texas 12-6 on Friday night. I had the privilege of being at that game. Trisha Ford brought in 4 transfers over the offseason, 2 pitchers, 2 hitters, and they absolutely balled out. Mac Barbara went 2 for 4 with 3 RBI. Ojo Johnson 1 for 2 with 2 RBI. And then Emily Kennedy finally has some help in the circle. Grace Sparks pitched 1.2 innings, gave up 2 runs and 3 hits. And Sydney Peters, 2.1 innings, 0 hits and 0 runs. Had some great additions. I'm really excited about that program, and y'all should definitely be too. They will have 2 more fall exhibitions. And then last but not least, soccer drew with LSU over the weekend. Their season is slowly ticking down. On Thursday, they will travel to Fayetteville and face the number 4 Razorbacks.
Thank you, KK. We are back on TexAgs Live. We're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. We're in the Rollo Insurance Studio. It's hour number 2 of the program. We're going to talk to Chris Gordy, our buddy here, who maybe follows LSU a little bit closer than we do, maybe, but also follows all things in the SEC. And he joins us here on the Boss Firearms Hotline, Locked On SEC, and, of course, iHeartRadio. Mr. Gordy, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good, David. I'm getting murdered by Texas fans in my Twitter mentions, our YouTube page, all because I said, David, I thought they were going to lose to Georgia, and my message this morning is welcome to the SEC. That's all I said, yet Texas thinks I'm just absolutely the biggest hater and, whatever.
Well, we can go back to Texas here in a minute. I'm glad you brought them up because I like when they lose. But let's talk about this A&M LSU matchup, and then we can kind of go back to what we've seen from the teams the last couple of weeks. When I look at this matchup, I think these are two teams that are actually better than I thought at this point. Not saying that 6-1 wasn't possible for A&M or LSU. Not saying that at all. But I think the way they've gone about their business, to me, like LSU's defense seems to be getting better. Yes, there are things you can point at to the Y's on the other side of the ball, but they're taking advantage of their opportunities, as is A&M.
Yeah, it's so funny. It's two teams that are just going about their business, doing what they need to do, finding ways to win, and both teams probably overachieving a little bit. And I think that's the fun part of this game this weekend is, all right, who's overachieving the most and who's going to come back down to earth a little bit? That's really the question in this one. It's so funny. I mean, just the two strengths. A&M's, number 2 in the league in rushing. Levy and Moss has been awesome. On the flip side, LSU's number 2 in the league in passing. Garrett Nussmeier has been incredible. Basically hasn't been touched back there. So it's going to be funny to see the dynamic of how this plays out, David, because, yeah, you're going to have A&M's going to, the power run game coming at you. LSU's going to try to throw the ball around the field. And I think both defenses are probably a little bit underrated. LSU's been getting better and better defensively. I thought that was going to be one of their Achilles heel this year, like it was last year. And then A&M, I thought, I was diving through the numbers this morning. I thought they were going to be a little bit better as far as like sack totals. I had A&M as like, I thought they were going to be top 2, top 3 in the SEC in sacks, and they may still be when it's all said and done. I know, Nick Scorton, I had as, I thought he was going to be one of the lead the SEC in sacks this year. So it's good on good, man. You can't say enough about what the job that Mike Elko's done so far in year 1. And, give Brian Kelly credit too, man. I mean, this guy every year loses the opener and then somehow rallies the troops and they find a way to go on a run and win a bunch of games. So, yeah, it's unfortunate one team has to lose. And obviously, I think the Aggies, have the slight edge being at home, and that environment's going to be rocking. It's a night game, which I think is in their favor as well. But I think two really, really good teams that, look, they deserve to be here. They've been playing great football.
Well, Gordy, I want to go back to that sacks comment because I think the numbers are maybe a little deceiving, and I'll tell you why. Some of the teams that they played, especially early on, obviously knew that's A&M's strength, and they got rid of the ball quick. I mean, Notre Dame, that's what they did. Like, you can go down the list. I think the sacks, we started seeing some of the numbers start changing, obviously in the Missouri game, a little bit in the Arkansas game, but Taylor Green broke a couple plays too. So I think that's been part of the reason behind it, and also teams just know to game plan against it.
Yeah, and I'm not taking a shot. I was just saying I thought that they would be, the best in the SEC, and they still may be by the end of the season. This is going to be a big test for them, though. I mean, LSU is incredible at protecting Garrett Nussmeier. Garrett Nussmeier has been sacked twice all year, and they both happened in the South Carolina game earlier in the year. He's been unscathed. I mean, even when he gets pressure on him, he's able to avoid it and get rid of the football. So again, this may be a week where A&M doesn't get a bunch of sacks, but this is where I look at the DBs, and I think Marcus Ratcliffe has played well. I think I like Jaden Hill a lot. We're going to see how these guys defend because they're going to have to stay one-on-one with these LSU receivers who, we're going to see as the week goes along. I don't know if they're going to get Chris Hilton back. He has not played a snap this year. He's supposed to be their deep threat. That's what's crazy about this passing attack for LSU is, they thought Chris Hilton was going to be the guy to take the top off the defense. He hasn't played in a game yet this year. Every week they're like, oh, it might be this week. It might be this week. And then, they rule him out. If he's back this week, it could open up this offense even more. So we'll keep an eye on his status. But obviously, Kyron Lacey stepping right into the void of Brian Thomas Jr. and Malik Neighbors as next man up. It's ridiculous how LSU just goes next man up at wide receiver and has elite talent. But they got CJ Daniels back last week, the Liberty transfer. He was really good for him. And so, yeah, again, I think the challenge is on A&M's secondary to not just try to slow down the LSU receivers, but takeaways. If they can force Nussmeier, who makes bad mistakes at times, he threw in a double coverage a couple times early in that Arkansas game, and it didn't cost him. This week, if he does that, those A&M DBs could make him pay.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the defenses that Nuss has faced. Obviously, South Carolina, fantastic defense. Outside of South Carolina, and that's a game that LSU almost lost, and they found their way. Outside of South Carolina, who are some of the defenses that have maybe caused some problems?
Well, I think Ole Miss, you got to go to them. I mean, they've been, despite their 2 losses, their defense still has been pretty damn solid. And they came into that LSU game leading the SEC or leading the country in sacks. They had the most sacks of anybody in the country, and they didn't get after LSU. So I think that was a pretty good test. And look, Lane Kiffin, they spent all that money, the Grove Collective, in the transfer portal, and buying a lot of established recruits from around the conference. And LSU was fortunate, able to get out of there. But yeah, I mean, look, nobody's going to confuse Arkansas's defense with one of the best out there. I thought they did a really good job of executing last week. And keep in mind, that's an Arkansas team that had come off of shutting down Nico Iamaleava in Tennessee. So, again, is A&M going to be one of the better defenses LSU has seen to this point? Yeah, I'd probably say so. But I do think they've been tested a little bit with Ole Miss and Arkansas.
Yeah, Arkansas's defense I thought was very solid. I think their big issue this past week was Taylor Green not being 100%, which kept their defense out there a little bit more than they wanted. Let's take a look at some of the other things in this matchup, because when I look at A&M and the way they attack, I want to kind of understand LSU and what has changed with Harold Perkins being gone, because all I read, and I don't watch a lot of LSU, I watch enough to feel comfortable talking about them, but why are people saying the defense is better without their best defensive player? Is it people aren't relying on him as much? Why is that a talking point?
Yeah, I said it when it happened, and look, Harold Perkins is a freak of an athlete. But the problem was they didn't know where to put him. His freshman year was simple. It was put him on the edge and say, see ball, go get ball. And he was just a freak, just running after guys. And then this whole talk of his future came up. And well, if he's in the NFL, he's too small to play a true defensive end. Why don't we, move him linebacker? In fact, let's move him more inside because of his size. He's small and he doesn't weigh much. He needs to play inside backers where he needs to be. And so they just kept kind of going back and forth. Remember last year there was a talk, and then it was a talk again this year of, on first and second, he's going to play inside backer, and then third downs, he's going to rush the passer. It just became so like moving him around, and then it was putting other guys out of position. It was, we got to take Weeks off the field and all this. The Harold Perkins injury just kind of made things a lot easier for LSU. They said, all right, Weeks, you're playing linebacker, go get him. Greg Penn, you're not coming off the field, just play linebacker. Like, it just became, everybody kind of knew their role, and that's how they become a little bit more solid. And these last couple of weeks, Weeks has been one of the best linebackers, not just the SEC, in the country. I mean, he plays sideline to sideline. They blitz him at time. He rushes the passer. I think it's been a little bit easier for guys like Braden Swinson, who's just a true edge rusher, to go get sacks, and he's among the SEC leaders in sacks. So, yeah, it sounds crazy to say, David, but nobody knew. There was no clear spot on where to put Harold Perkins. Let's move him here. Let's move him here. With him out, it's now everybody knows their role. Just go play your role. And they've tweaked some things in the secondary too. I mean, I think they've kind of, Major Burns has taken on that star role. That's where he is successful. They've put Sage Ryan exclusively at safety. That's where he plays well. It's just funny when those guys have played like corner, they would get burned. They weren't great. It seems like Blake Baker and that defense, they figured out where to play everybody, and it's working.
Talking to Chris Gordy on the Boss Firearms Hotline here on TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Gordy, one last thing about A&M here. I know you were high on Elko coming into the season, but now watching this version of A&M with Coach Elko, what's evident about his style and why it's working so far with A&M?
Well, he's got some dudes on defense. I mean, they swarmed to the ball that late in that game. And by the way, I put A&M on upset alert this past weekend at Mississippi State. I thought going into Davis Wade, we heard it was going to be a sellout. The cowbells were going to be rocking. They were like, we're bringing back Dak Prescott. We're bringing back Dan Mullen. The way that Michael Van Buren's been playing, he's a true freshman, and he's not even supposed to be playing, but he has full control of that Jeff Lebby offense. And man, late in the fourth quarter, it's a one-score game, David. I'm going, gosh, like this might happen. Luckily, A&M, the offense kept doing their thing. They go down, they get the field goal, they make it 10 points, and I thought late in that game, the defense really amped it up and they were starting to get after it and pinning their ears back. But they survived the test. I mean, like I said, I thought that there was a lot going against A&M last weekend. They still were able to win by double digits. But I just like their aggressiveness, man. They swarm to the ball. It's a lot like, it reminds me a lot of his teams at Duke. I mean, they're strong defensively. They swarm, run the football well, and getting Wigman back has I think really just solidified this offense a little bit more. And so, yeah, man, they're not the flashiest. They're not going to be making SportsCenter highlights or whatever, but just a really fundamentally sound team. And I'm a little bit surprised, David, because I think they're ahead of schedule. I thought this would be probably a 3 or 4 loss year, which would have been good. Like if we look up at the end of the year and go, Mike Elko went 8-4 in his first year, I would have said that's a phenomenal start for year one at A&M. But man, it looks like they're maybe even a little bit more ahead of schedule than I thought.
I lied. I want to ask you something. Do you think the winner of this game goes to Atlanta?
Dude, there's just so much parity right now in the conference. It's like, and there's too many pitfalls for people. I mean, if LSU wins, they still have to play Bama. I know everybody's writing off Bama. They're still a talented team. Georgia's still got to play Tennessee. I mean, there's still pitfalls on all these teams' schedules where, today everybody's overreacting. Oh, Georgia's back and Georgia's clearly going to Atlanta. I don't know. I can't say that definitively. Carson Beck has, 8 interceptions his last 4 games? Like, he keeps turning the ball over. I don't know if they're going to win all the rest of their games. So I love it, though. This is what the SEC is all about, David. It's funny. Back in, the mid-2000s, it was fun where 03 LSU wins a championship. And then here comes Urban Meyer in Florida. They win 2 championships. And then Auburn with Cam Newton and Bama wins. And it was fun. It was like everybody was taking a turn. And then it was Bama, 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 and then Georgia. And it's like, okay, no, this isn't fun anymore. Like, it's more fun where a different team rises to the top every year. That's what makes the SEC fun. And I think we're going to see more of that. With Saban gone, I think Kirby's still going to keep doing this thing in Georgia, but I do think the parity in the league with the NIL and transfer portal is making everything more of a level playing field. Look at Vanderbilt. Goes from literally the worst team in the conference to a contender. You realize Vanderbilt is 2 plays away from being 7-0 right now? It's insane. So I like this. I love it. I love that everything's wide open. I love the 12-team playoff. Even if you have 2 losses, your season's not over. This is what makes college football great. This is what makes the SEC great.
Talking to Chris Gordy here on TexAgs Live. All right, Gordy, let's talk about what happened in Austin. Georgia did what they're supposed to do. Like, when I think of Georgia, right? Because before the season, I think most people were like, all right, Georgia's going to go to Texas, and they're going to show them what's up. Then Georgia looks a little flawed. Texas takes advantage of a super soft schedule, and then everybody overrates them, which typically happens when you're undefeated. Like, you should get overrated, right? I get it, especially if you're the University of Texas. Georgia goes and humbles them in the first half. And they also had their issues, by the way. It's not like they played clean football offensively either, but they humbled them. Texas made it a little bit more respectable in the second half, had their chances, no doubt, to make that even a tighter game. Just your big takeaways of everything that happened there Saturday night.
Yeah, I thought it was, I've been saying for a couple weeks now, Texas hadn't really been tested. And, I had Texas fans telling me, oh, you're just a hater. This is our best team we've ever had. And, Texas is going to go undefeated. And I'm going, guys, you're not going to come into the SEC and just run the table. It's not going to happen. Losses are going to happen. This is what playing in a tough conference is. You've got to have a really special team to be able to go unscathed, like a Georgia, like an Alabama has had in the past. But I like this Texas team. It's loaded with talent. But I also thought, man, Quinn Ewers, missing a month of football, playing kind of average against Oklahoma last week. I was like, I don't know if he's primed or this team is primed and ready to face a Georgia-hungry defense that got Mykel Williams back and had all these dudes ready for a breakout game. And you saw from the get-go, man. I mean, the speed of that Georgia defense was relentless. To have a Steve Sarkisian coach team only put up, 259 yards of total offense, they were swarming. And, I love he avoided the whole quarterback controversy up to this point, and then he goes and puts Arch Manning out there for a series. And it's like, dude, what are you doing? Now you got people really questioning Quinn Ewers. So I thought the CJ Baxter injury before the season, we didn't talk enough about it. Like, Jaden Blue's been fine, but Trey Wisner's been fine, but they really needed CJ Baxter. He would have really helped make this offense that much more dynamic. So again, Texas, are they still a good football team? Yes. But man, I'll just be honest. It felt good to see them get a little bit humbled because that fan base was talking, and it was like, guys, Stop acting like you're God's gift to the SEC. The SEC gave you an invite. You didn't just demand your way in. They extended an invitation to you to come to this conference. It wasn't like, oh, please, let's all bow down at the hands of the Texas Longhorns. God, we need you in the Southeastern Conference. No, and they got punched in the mouth. Welcome to the SEC. Well,
I'm looking at the rest of their schedule. I don't know when they're going to get punched again. Maybe it's on November 30th against A&M. Kentucky, it depends which Kentucky team shows up. I think the Vanderbilt story is awesome, but I can't see back-to-back weeks of that. Florida has really they're playing a different brand of football than they were initially, and I like what I'm seeing from Lagway. I liked what I saw from Mertz, but Billy Napier is probably not going to be able to escape this next little stretch of games coming. Arkansas, if Taylor Green is injured, he is not the same kind of quarterback, and then we saw what happened against LSU. Where do they get humbled again, if they get humbled again?
Well, I've said all offseason, I have A&M winning that game at the end of the season. I just think, David, that's going to be A&M Super Bowl. And I said it didn't matter if A&M was, 10 wins, 5 wins, whatever. I saw that A&M team 2 years ago that had, a terrible record. But literally that LSU game, they treated it like their Super Bowl. They got everybody back healthy. A-Chain was back. And, everybody played their butts off that day. And they beat a good LSU team that night in Kyle Field. I think that's coming on November 30th. I think, regardless, if A&M beats LSU or not this weekend, they're going to put everything they have into that Texas game. Tickets are going. I said they're going to treat it like a Super Bowl. Ticket prices are Super Bowl prices right now to get into Kyle Field for that game. So I just couldn't imagine. Look, even more, the stakes are amped up. If that is a game that, if the Aggies win, they're in the playoff or going to Atlanta to play for an SEC title. But even if not, the thought on the flip side, to knock Texas out, to be able to tell Texas, we're knocking you out of a trip to Atlanta or knocking you out of a playoff spot, it's going to be a glorious night in College Station.
Gordy, I'm going to give you a different perspective of that. I hope it's not our Super Bowl. I hope our Super Bowl is every week moving forward, honestly, because I think this weekend against LSU opens up a new portal, right? A new dimension to what can happen this season. And then obviously you got to go on the road and take on a South Carolina team that can beat anybody in the country, right? Like, to me, yeah, I know the Texas game for the fans especially and those players is going to mean something. But I hope the Super Bowl is at the end of the season, that each week becomes the biggest game. I know everything that's on the table. Had A&M been 5-7, 7-5, 10-2, I get all that. But I hope it's more than just about Texas. I hope it's what's at stake at the end of it. That's kind of how, at least a little bit more than midway through the season, how I see it.
That sounds great, David, and you and Mike Elko can have that. But that night, it's all about Texas hate and knocking the damn Longhorns off their pedestal. So, no, man, it's going to be a fun ride the rest of the way. I just wish I wish A&M could have held on to beat Notre Dame. I wish LSU could have held on to beat USC. And think of the magnitude. We'd be talking about maybe 1 versus 2, 2 versus 3 this weekend in College Station. But it is what it is. But again, 2 losses, you're still very much in this thing. But the room for error is out the window now with Ole Miss still there, Georgia still there. It's going to be a heck of a run down the stretch.
Surprised that both teams are stuck at at least what the AP had at 14-8. Are you surprised by that?
Yeah, I don't know why A&M is still so low. Like, give them a little bit of credit for what they've been doing. And again, how hard it is to win. It seems like the only team that gets the benefit of the doubt when they keep losing is Alabama. They just like the logo on the side of the helmet. They just keep going, they're still good, right? And so they won't drop them. Any other team they would drop. So we'll see what happens. But I'll tell you right now, David, Texas, watch out for Vanderbilt this weekend. Clark Lee has been phenomenal at scheming defensively. I can't wait to see what kind of scheme he has for Steve Sarkisian, especially them coming off of that lackluster performance against Georgia. Ooh, man, could you imagine if they go into Nashville and lose to Vandy? Goodness gracious.
I can imagine it. Yeah, and in fact, I'm wishing for it. Gordy, I feel like there's 2 other things I want to get to, and I'm running out of time, so I'm going to do it quickly. We did not touch on the officiating blunder, multiple blunders, I should say, in Austin, and just overall. Did you have a take on it? Are you like everybody else? They made the right call, but the way they got there was not the right way? Or they fixed the call? Sorry.
You can't overturn it. You all huddled up and discussed what the penalty was, and you decided it was defensive pass interference, and you called the flag. Then you let the Texas fans cause a disruption, particularly student section, start throwing water bottles and beer bottles on the field, cause a long delay. And during that long delay, they all get together and discuss, you know what, man, they're really angry. Yeah, we probably got that wrong. Look at the replay up there. Yeah. Okay, we're going to go ahead and wave it off. You can't do that. This wasn't, you can't just retroactively go against. The SEC statement they put out said, oh, they all got together and discussed it. Yeah, for the second time. We didn't talk about the first time they all huddled together and said, okay, what did you have? You had pass interference. Once you make the call is the call. Like, you can't just go back and say, well, they threw a fit. So, we don't want to die getting out of here tonight. So let's go ahead and wave it off. Like, SEC is going to have to face some big answers moving forward, John McDade in the SEC officiating office, because that's Bush League, man. Was it a bad call? Yes. And that's what I hate. Everybody's like, well, they got the call right. That doesn't matter. They huddled up and said, this was the call. The call has to stand. That's what they called initially. You can't just wave it off because everybody threw a hissy fit and threw bottles on the field.
Gordy, last thing for you. I thought Oklahoma was going to be bad. Like, not bad, like 7-5 bad to what they're used to. They may be worse, man. I don't know how many wins they're going to have this year.
Yeah, I talked to Jackson Arnold before the season at the Manning Passing Academy. I just had high hopes for this kid. I mean, he was a 5-star quarterback. Everybody thought, oh, this is the next guy up, right? This long, line of great quarterbacks that they've had from, Dylan Gabriel and Caleb Williams, and of course all the Kyler Murray, Baker Mayfield, all these Heisman Trophy winners and stuff. And he didn't live up to the hype. And it's unfortunate. Sometimes kids don't as a freshman. Maybe he can still fix it down the road. But yeah, going to Michael Hawkins, gave him a little bit of a spark in that Tennessee game, but it's bad, man. It's really bad. And Seth Luttrell, he last 7 games there at Oklahoma, and he's already fired as the OC. So yeah, welcome to the SEC. We said welcome to the SEC Texas, welcome to the SEC Oklahoma. It's a little bit tougher here. If you ain't got an offense, you're done, man.
Gordy, we appreciate it, brother. Thanks so much for making some time.
All right, thanks, David.
All right, Chris Gordy there on the Boss Firearms Hotline. When we come back, I think Billy Liucci will be in studio. We'll also check in on the Little Sluggers text line. If you want to be a part of the conversation, 979-693-1150. That is the Boss Firearms Hotline. And, of course, the Little Sluggers text line. Right now, we're talking about Southwood Valley Animal Hospital, Dr. Justin Casares and Dr. Lauren Casares. And I thought I was going to have to call them. I feel like I'm going to have to call them all the time because the puppies, Jackson, I don't know if you know about my puppies. They're great. Like, we got them super trained. They're way better. But one of my puppies, if there's a sock 30 miles close to the house, Maddie will find that sock and swallow it within 2.2 seconds. So far, we've dodged bullets about her death because I feel like that's going to cause some issues. But every time I see her go for a sock, I'm like, Dr. Justin, I'm calling you in 5 seconds. He is awesome. So is Dr. Lauren. Aggie owned and operated. He comes from a long family of Aggies. And they provide routine veterinary services, including wellness visits, sick emergency visits, and they provide advanced medical care at affordable prices. And if you're a brand new client and you listen to TexAgs, they're going to hook you up $12 off the TexAgs 12 discount. Just tell the receptionist, hey, I listen to TexAgs. I like Dr. Justin and Dr. Lauren. Can you guys hook me up with those $12 off? And they're going to say yes. If you're a student, they're going to hook you up all the time because they hook up all the students. 979-693-9898. 979-693-9898 or go to southwoodvalleyvet.com. I'm going to put you on the spot, Jackson. You know who that is singing?
I don't.
Dead or Alive.
Dead or Alive is the song? Or
That's the song.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm not really.
I bet if I go to Nick Savage, I tried to keep that bit going the other day that your name was actually pronounced. Who was that with? Was that with Harrington? I don't remember who it was with. But
Leone.
Nick, huh?
Leone.
Oh yeah. I think he believed it for like 9 seconds, and then he was like, "That's just Nuño being a dork." You know who sang that song?
Bon Jovi.
What's his first name?
John.
See, this is why you're here, Nick, because you know things. We're TexAgs Live. We're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. We are in the Rollo Insurance Studio. We're going to tap dance as Billy finishes a meeting out in the lobby. Hopefully he'll be with us here in a moment. Let's go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. That's where Jackson Oxney is. Jackson, I know people have been texting. We haven't paid off those texts yet, so I apologize to all the texters. Give us a little bit of some of the thoughts on there.
Yeah, so this is coming from a true Aggie fan. Rudy from Dallas says, I have physically been at every game this year.
Okay.
And I can say without a doubt, Mississippi State played harder and with more fight than Mizzou or Florida. The SEC should worry about what Lebby could do there.
I'm a little worried about, look, what I saw from them, that does not look like a 1-5 football team, 1-6 football team. They do not look like that. I think their quarterback, Michael Van Buren, is just, he does not look flustered. He, even when in the face of all the rushing and all the attacks that he had in that game, he just looked kind of calm and composed. He can make the throws. He can run. He does a little bit of everything. So I agree. As, and I hate comparing them to Bowling Green because different types of teams, different games. But the same part of Bowling Green that just wouldn't go away, that was Mississippi State. Now, the Florida game, that game was over. And Florida kept on trying to make it interesting. And there were a couple of moments like, oh, maybe they'll make it interesting. But it was different. And I think Florida, because of that A&M loss, has kind of redirected their energy this season. And they're much better than they were. What else do you have for us?
Yeah, I have Matt from San Antonio. He said, I do think Weigman will only get better, more consistent with more live SEC game reps. Missing games in each of the last 3 seasons due to either illness or injury has deprived him of those valuable game reps. Hopefully the offensive line can provide good protection for him to stay healthy the remainder of the 2024 season.
So I'm going to say this about Wiggs. Look, sorry, is that not a proper nickname for him? Sorry, I'm in the
Hey,
circle.
Dave.
Hey, Billy. Good to see you,
Don't
bud.
do that voice. Not around here. You can save that one
voice?
for Olin.
Which one?
You know the one you just did.
Hey, Billy.
Yeah.
That one? That's a happy to see you.
This is not an 80s sitcom.
Where I look
not
at the camera?
walking in the door. Yeah.
Well, what I'll say about Connor Wigman, sorry, I'm going to go my broadcaster voice. What I'll say about Connor is, and we actually talked about it a little bit on the Luchador yesterday. Of course, he wants those throws back, and I want him to not be, I think what Elko called it, the game sped up for him. Yes, of course. And I'm not making it okay, but other quarterbacks in our same conference, the same thing is happening.
First of all, don't let me even go into one more segment without mentioning Jabri Barber. We went an hour plus yesterday.
It's on here to talk about right now. Yep.
Because I went back and I was, I knew watching the game what he'd done, but I was just kind of before I was going to write offense and review, kind of just looking up, reading up on everything. I do a watch, like a rewatch, then read about it, read the stats, whatever, just kind of pour through, see anything that's interesting to me. And I'm like, of course we forgot to talk about the offensive player of the game. I think we're so used to talking about Le'Veon Moss and mentioning and breaking down quarterback play. But so let me start with Jabri Barber, and then we'll talk.
I like your executive decision.
What was it? 6 catches, 92 yards. He had was it a 58? Was that the long of the game? I just thought, and by the way,
58 yards, and then yards after catch, 61.
By the way, what did I have him?
You had him on Friday. You talked about him being your guy.
Yeah, I'm on him. I'm a bit. I'm on a heater going back to like the Florida game when I said Bryce Anderson.
Most of us, when we do well, we don't remind the people.
No, when it's this good, you remind the people.
I know.
Trust me.
I remind people.
I come from a school, David, not Elsick, wherever it was you went.
I went to Hastings. Thanks for always getting it wrong. Okay. You went to Dulles, right?
So, to me, like, when I get it right, I better mention it because Lord knows people are going to say when you get it wrong.
Receipts.
I'm going to start keeping my own receipts. And therefore, yes, Jabri Barber called him, called Noah before Arkansas. I mean,
did?
You're
on a great run.
So when I say someone's going to play good, pay attention. Jabri, though, I thought that was Jabri, a great performance when A&M really needed it. You knew Terry Bussey was banged up, and I thought unlikely to play. I know he came off the list at the end of the week, but it was one of those games where if you could get him as much, not as much rest, but without having him aggravate that for another week, you would probably be in pretty good shape. So I thought we were going to see a lot of Barber. I said when he got here, they really liked him. When he went down in spring, it was very disappointing. And a lot of people thought he could be their best receiver. And he was going to be a punt returner. There was a lot that they were hoping to see from him this year. He comes back, misses all of camp, comes back in season, ahead of schedule, which to me always tells you that a guy really wants to play.
Yep.
Comes back ahead of schedule. You could see it right away. I mean, he had a touchdown call back, and was it his first game back against Florida? I think that was his. Maybe he got in there against McNeese. I think he got in, but a week later, touchdown call back in that first game. You could see it immediately, and it's just a matter of him getting really into the flow and things, and getting his touches. It's interesting what we're seeing. He's a playmaker. He's a big play guy. He's tough to cover. He's exceptionally quick. He's one of the guys in that receiving core, along with Bussey, that's really quick and explosive. And they're going to need both of them this weekend against that LSU defense to make. They're going to have to make some big plays because LSU will give them up. You got to have guys that can make them. What I like about the receiving core right now, if you look at the stats on Saturday, they're not much about it stands out. Again, I think if you go back and look, the Aggies did not throw a lot in the second half. Played with for a good portion of that half.
Theme, by the way.
Yeah, and it's not a bad thing, right? It's a good theme when you're not having to sling it around 50 times to play catch up, especially with what it is A&M does. But in the last few weeks, it's you'd love to have two guys going, Chase and Jefferson or Waddle and Judy or whoever it was at that, I'll forget Waddle and Devontae Smith, of course. And you'd love to have a 100-yard receiver every single week. But what you've seen the last few weeks is different guys getting involved. You saw Noah Thomas, and he had a beautiful touchdown catch this week, but you see Noah with that 100-yard game against Arkansas, and he's way more involved. You saw the week before against Bowling Green, Ja'Day Walker kind of emerge. He'd been quiet for a few weeks, and then he pops out in that one. And then last week against Missouri, it was Bussey. And Noah's been consistent. This week, it was Barber. You don't know where it's coming from, but what I think you're starting to see is more guys more consistently. And what you saw, Ja'Day, he had, what did he have? He had the PI that was drawn. That was a big play. He had a big catch and run. And then he was the one that got called for offensive PI too, right?
Correct.
And that was they targeted him down there in the red zone again, which I like to see, or maybe a little outside the red zone. But Barber, Noah had what? Did he have two for? Maybe somewhere three. They threw
2 for 37 yards.
Yeah, they threw it to him 3 or 4 times. Almost had a deep ball touchdown. He got behind the defense. So, and then we go back to Bussey from a week earlier and what he did. So you're starting to see these guys more consistently involved. What I liked seeing was, and even though it was off script, and I thought it was Connor's best play of the game, was the play to Trey Watson, where he scrambled out of trouble. It was a huge play. It was third and very long, and he found him, and it led to a touchdown. Great play by Connor. Great play by Trey. What we saw was the tight end get not more involved, but
involved.
It's been a few weeks since we'd seen a big play by the tight end, and you had been seeing, a couple a game, it felt like, for a little stretch there. So it was good to see 84 involved, and maybe, who knows, maybe this week it's Theo and Watson that make noise.
Right. All right, let's do this. Let's hit a break. A lot more to get into beyond the wide receivers. Do want to talk about Le'Veon's performance. Want to talk about the ramifications there in the SEC this weekend. Right now, we're talking Bird Dog, Aggie owned and operated company creating access to hunting opportunities. And there's a big one coming up. You guys, if you've been listening, you got to go November the 6th or the 8th in Brady, Texas. It's the TexAgs Wing Shoot. It's going to be great. Roger Krager's going to be there. He's going to be performing and hanging out with us. It's going to be awesome. 2-night upland shoot with some Aggie legends, guided hunting, skeet shooting, axe throwing, cold beverages, Aggie fellowship. And you want to go to this event. It's going to be awesome. I'm going to be going on my very first hunt. Looking forward to it. Duck Camp hooked me up with some awesome gear to go. So you got to go to this. It's going to be fun. Chris Harrington's going to be there with us. So we're going to have a blast going. And I've heard from several people that are going to be going. You're going to have all-inclusive food and drinks, the great Aggie happy hour, and as I mentioned, guided upland hunting. And they make it easy for landowners to get more hunters on their land, talking about Bird Dog, streamlined booking process to make it easier to find and book hunts. The website is birddogit.com, but for this particular event, go to birddogit.com/TXAGS hunt. That is birddogit.com/TXAGS hunt. 2, 1. TexAgs Live, we're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. We're in the Rollo Insurance Studio. Appreciate everybody listening in. As a reminder, we're going to be at the Angry Elephant this Friday again for the setup for the LSU game. So we're looking forward to hanging out at the Angry Elephant there in South College Station. More details to come as the week comes on, but you'll want to go there. Last time was phenomenal. Every time we go there, the service is great, the atmosphere, the vibe is great. So we'll be at the Angry Elephant this Friday for the entire show, and we're working on some pretty cool guests to hang out with us there on TexAgs Live. Billy, let's talk about a couple of things that I think we need to be looking out for this week. How injured this A&M team is coming out of that game. I don't know about injury situations at LSU, but there was a couple scary moments in that game. When Basantis came off the field, Nick came off the field a couple times. So just something that I think we need to keep an eye on. Scooby as well.
Shamar got banged up. Stewart. Yeah, I mean, it was a physical game.
Yep.
It was. I think Le'Veon was limping off that play with Chase. I think there'll be. I don't think there'll be much. The one that I would just watching it, I would say the Basantis one would worry me more. That certainly looked like, I could be wrong. I'm just saying what I saw on TV looked like an ankle to me, and with O-linemen those. But I don't think we'll learn more today from Elko. But I don't think there was something like. I'd be surprised if we got a long-termer out of that whole game. And I think most of those guys, I think you'll see them. This is going to be one of those weeks that, the majority of them return to the game. I think maybe all of them, but Chase Scooby's was so late.
Right.
But they're having him come speak to the media today. We just got the thing. That doesn't mean much, but it does a lot of times. It's like, if they're so hurt, the treatment and all that is so important that they basically don't add things to take time out of their day, even though that's just 15, 20, it was probably a 30-minute window out of it. But typically, if that's one of those deals where we are scrambling to get this guy ready to go.
Right.
So I think you'll see a pretty healthy team. Obviously, if Basantis can't go, that would be a big hit because Chase, I think, he's played at an all SEC level this year, without question. But that's what you have depth for too. And if it's not him, it can be Shanahan, it can be Dewberry. You had Shanahan go down for a couple weeks with an ankle. He's back. He's been available the last couple weeks. Played this week, and then Cam. So we've said all year they have real depth on the inside. And look, this is an example that if you've lost Naboo for the year, and then you had to play without Shanahan for a few weeks, and now if and that's an if because Santos is a tough dude. If you were without him for whether it be a week, a couple weeks, whatever, look at the depth you have.
Yep.
We're debating which backup interior lineman because they're both really good, and one of them started almost a year's worth of games in Dewberry. So. We said before the year that depth on the inside was really significant, and you're seeing it. You're seeing it now. And the thing about Chase, if you think about the schedule, damn, you'd love to have him this weekend and next with that South Carolina defensive front, right? If you don't, then you go bye week, New Mexico State, and I think you'd 1,000,000% see him for. Auburn and Texas, down the stretch. But again, you might see him Saturday. We'll find that out soon. I'm just saying, I saw a guy limping off pretty gingerly on what looked like an ankle. And we've seen this movie a million times. You don't know if he's going to be ready to go when they tee it up against LSU at 6:30, or if it's going to be a couple weeks or whatever. So, but I think my point of saying all that, I think that's the one. That looked to stand out to me because Scorton kept going back in there, and you hope he's at 100% this weekend. So,
Billy, before we hit a break, I'm not saying this because I want to make myself feel better about Saturday because there's nothing to feel better about. They won.
I was about to sing Post Malone since I saw him this week.
Your buddy?
You probably think that you.
He's Team Country now.
He was good.
I like him. What I was going to say is Mississippi State is better than the record. The brand of football that they played the last few weeks, and just watching them up close, they're a good football team that just hasn't figured the it part of it out.
I think the Texas game would have been really interesting had Van Buren had a little more experience.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's since played Texas, Mississippi, and Georgia and A&M now. I think had you flipped that around and A&M got him in the first game and Texas got him in the third game, I think that game would have been interesting. Texas would have won.
Right.
But going on the road there, the game was 13-6, I believe, at halftime. And I think it took them until like pretty well into the third quarter before they pushed that out to 14 points or more, you know, where it was just kind of, then I think they ended up like 33-6.
Right,
I don't know if Mississippi State scored a late garbage one or not. But what I was saying is the Mississippi State defense made it tough on Texas and Arch Manning for a while there in that one. But they didn't have the offense to kind of take advantage of that and make it more interesting. Now I think they do. I don't think they have like a lights out offense, but their guys are running downhill. I thought, did a good job of. They ran the ball well against A&M in the first half, better than Florida, Missouri, or Arkansas did. Yep. But I think that's a credit to Lebby and how they kind of spread you out as the game wore on, and even early they were getting a lot of pressure on Van Buren, but he was doing a great job of avoiding it, keeping his eyes down the field, making throws. They made some adjustments. I thought Elko and Bateman deserve a lot of credit for when we talk about halftime adjustments, what they did, because they just shut off the faucet. Like there was nothing. They got nothing in the second half, and they really never threatened. And even on that drive where it was first and goal from the 10, first and 10 from the 11, you had them in a 3rd and 11 there, and it was a nice design, great throw, and catch and touchdown. So it took a great play. They almost got a stop for a field goal on that drive. They would have held them to 3 points in the second half. So is State any good? No. You look at their schedule, there's a couple, I don't think they'll do it, but there's like 3 winnable games on their remaining SEC schedule. It's pretty weak. I don't think they'll do it. They might be in position enough to give Ole Miss a problem later in the year, though.
All right, we'll hit a break.
And that heated Egg Bowl rivalry.
Talking to Rollo Insurance, the difference is real. They're an independent insurance company built around educating you on exactly what you're paying for, doing the shopping for you so that you can accomplish your insurance goals. They can write any form of insurance to anyone. They have 60 offices in the great state of Texas, but their headquarters is right here on Highway 6 in College Station. But they got offices in Houston, Dallas, Austin, San Antonio, West Texas, you name it. They got offices in Utah, just all around the place. And they're going to find you the best insurance for your family situation, be that car insurance, homeowners insurance, farmers insurance, ranchers. They've got business owner insurance, you name it. They're going to take great care of you, obviously car and homeowners. The number is 888-44-ROLLO. Go to RolloInsurance.com. That's 888-44-ROLLO, RolloInsurance.com. TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. He's Billy Liucci. I'm David Nuño. Let's go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Jackson Oxney has got some thoughts, and of course, we've got a couple text messages.
Yeah, I have a comment on the YouTube chat.
Okay.
Jeff Lebby said in the postgame interview that Texas A&M's D-line was the best they faced this year, and that includes Georgia and the Shorthorns, he called them.
The Shorthorns. Okay. I think he's saying that. I don't think Levy said that.
Called him the Shorthorns.
I don't think he did that.
Levy, his time at Baylor and OU got to him. That's a really interesting quote. I had not seen that. I love hearing that. He doesn't have a dog in the fight, you know?
Yep.
He had a lot of dogs in the fight earlier that day.
Huh?
I hear it.
Is it who?
Yep. He doesn't have a dog in the fight, to say that after the game. There's no reason to. It's just what he believes. And it's not surprising. I mean, look, I know what I saw. Now, maybe Georgia, you might want to revisit that after what they did to that Texas O-line and Quinn Ewers. But why? But why can't Scorton and Stewart and Regis and Shamar Turner, who had a monster, he had that game we talked about Friday.
Yeah.
He had a monster game. Why can't those guys, do this exact same thing Georgia's D-line's doing? I think those two are almost like interchangeable. You got NFL guys across the board. Now, Georgia might have a top overall type pick in there that A&M doesn't, but they might have a top 15 pick in Scorton. They might have a first and a second rounder in Scorton and Stewart, and who knows what Shamar Stewart can eventually do, in terms of rising in post-draft or postseason stuff. So it's as good a D-line as there is in the country. We've said that all year, and it's good to hear Jeff Lebby concur after doing battle with them for 3 hours.
Hour number 3 coming up next. TexAgs Live. All right, we're back on TexAgs Live. We're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. It is our number 3 of the program. I'm David Nuño. Billy Liucci will be back momentarily. We go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. I mentioned it a moment ago. We will be at the Angry Elephant in South College Station on Friday to do the broadcast, 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. What I know about it is obviously the final countdown will be there. So Steve and Seth and Billy working on some cool things for the 9 o'clock hour. Once I have that confirmed, I will announce it, but we always try to bring you some great stuff when we go to the Angry Elephant because they take care of us, so we try to take care of them. Aggies gather at the Angry Elephant, and we're gathering here with Jackson Oxney. What do you have for us?
That Aggie kid on the YouTube chat said, "Can I please get a shout out to Randy Bond? I've been saying to some people since he was kicking on a drenched field that it changes mechanics. 2 missed field goals at Florida, and now he's 13 for 15 on the year."
He's been great. He has
been really
absolutely been great. And I think his story is an interesting one, too, because kickers, when we talk about them, it's usually not in a favorable light, right? Because you just kind of expect the extra points, the field goals to happen. He's been solid all year. He has been. He had that, you're right, a couple of moments he'd like to have back against the Gators. But other than that, he's been great.
Yeah, and I have some stats from Randy. Randy Bond's 4 extra points in the game against Mississippi State upped his career total to 98, moving him into 10th all-time. And he racked up 10 points in the victory, 4 extra points, a pair of field goals to register double-digit points in a game for the 11th time in his career. And it's the 5th time this season that he's had multiple field goals, 17th time in his career.
All right, talking a little Randy Bond here.
You want a good gift, get somebody an Academy gift card. Talk about a great thing to have.
That's right. It's a big one right there.
It's just so much easier. You don't have to figure out what you want or what you want to get someone. You just give them a gift card.
Give them, and then they can pick it for themselves. Billy, let's talk linebackers for a moment.
Let's talk Randy Bond for a moment.
Okay,
we talked about him yesterday, so I'll keep it quick. But the punting and kicking, A&M special teams and Coach Doherty, you got to give. We don't talk about it enough, and that's a good thing typically. But with how both of those guys have played this year, man, they've been really upper echelon in this conference, both of them. And so I think special teams for A&M, they've done a tremendous job. It's been an area where it's a very noticeable improvement over the last few years. So I'm sure that will make Hunter Goodwin very happy.
Yeah.
And he's right. I mean, it is a very important phase of the game, especially when you're not performing there. But I just thought that move was so clutch. And I heard you guys talking this morning when Elko went for it on 4th down early in was it in the red zone or just outside the red? It was
right
just outside. He went for it on 4th down early, and it was 4th and it wasn't like a yard. It was a little more. And drew the offense or the defensive PI that set up a touchdown. So that was a great 4-point decision as it turned out. And I like the aggression of taking a shot. And then late in the game, when you're trying to put the game away, it was an easy decision if you have all that confidence in Randy Bond. And he rewarded you for your confidence. It's not an easy decision when you're about less than. It was probably about 2, maybe even a little more. But you have this 4th, or no, they punted on the other one when they were 4th and 1.
Right.
But that was at the very end. But when they were up 7, and it's 4th quarter on the road, and it's a 44-yard field goal to put you up 10, that is a very high degree of difficulty kick. I mean, a lot of kickers would tell you, no, it's not. If you watch college football, on the road from 44. Pivotal moment of a game, right. That's not easy. We know that, unfortunately. We've seen any college fan knows that. What do they call it? A college kicker situation, Van Pelt and them. But you get the first down there if you go for it and get that first down, the game's essentially over because they're out of timeouts, I think, at that point. You could really run a ton of clock.
Yep.
And the field goal by them becomes that much more of a gimme as well. But you had the chance right there to get stopped and let them try to go down and score and take the lead to win. And that's probably exactly why you kicked it. If that would have been like a 9-point game, you probably go for it. But when it's sitting there at 7, you can push it to 2 scores. That is a difficult kick to make on the road, and he just calmly went up there and drilled it. And then Braden White's been spectacular all year too.
Tyler White.
Did I say Who's Braden White?
They're friends.
He was a linebacker here. No, Braden White was a 12th man here. That's one. Yeah.
Linebackers. It was
Pride of South Lake, Carroll.
It wasn't just Scooby. Like that group has. Well, I don't know if it was the Notre Dame. I think it was early on. Where like I wanted to see more from that group overall, and I think Torian struggled in that Notre Dame game. Since then, that group overall just keeps getting better.
And by the way, Torian had a good game as well. Really good game. What do you have? 12 tackles, couple tackles behind the line. I thought, let's give credit where it's due when we sit here and say, man, we see a little more impact from him. He had a big sack against Missouri last week, and then to come back and do this week. So maybe he's really starting to feel.
12 tackles, a half sack, 1.5 tackles for loss.
Yeah. And I thought, but Scooby really stood out. And I don't know what did his stat line say, but he really stood out.
6 tackles, 2 solo, 2 tackles for loss, an interception, 1 pass breakup.
Yeah, and that pass breakup was a big play too. He came in there, flew in there, went skied and got it. What an athlete he is. And by the way, so is Damian Sanford, who made plays himself, and he always just flashes. Damian Sanford has a big play or two in him, down the stretch here too. And by player 2, I'm probably underselling it, but he's one to watch on Saturday. And then, we don't see as much of Solomon DeShields. He's a great-looking athlete when he's playing out there as well. So they've got a really nice situation. That's probably, I would say that's been my most pleasant surprise. The secondary improvement, I expected that. And obviously, I think their 2 biggest tests are still on the table, one this weekend and one against Texas. But the secondary improvement has been off the chart. You can't even measure how much better they are. Then on the offensive line, it was more like hopeful, but I also knew what they had to work with. But it was okay, we got to see it to believe it, and you just don't know. Okay, I know they're going to be better. I know they're going to be minimum like a respectable SEC O-line. They've exceeded those expectations by a long shot. But, I mean, to me, the position that has surprised me most has been linebacker, because I think they've been really good. And I liked the pieces when you looked at them, but when 2 of them are transfers, it started to feel really a lot better about them when you went out in fall camp and saw them as a unit. You saw Sanford really flash in the spring. You saw how athletic Scooby was. I think you kind of went, man, this guy's probably a little better than advertised. They didn't act like losing him was a big deal at Florida, and I think he's a hell of a player for this defense, and he was a big part of the reason they won on Saturday. Who was it in there? There was another Shamar Turner. I thought played really well.
6 tackles.
Yeah,
1 sack. 2 tackles for loss.
Yeah,
a pass breakup.
Yeah, Shamar Turner was really good. Cassius Howell. And forced a fumble. Shamar had his best game of the season, at least statistically, and he seemed very disruptive. But I thought the Rylan Kennedy, Cassius Howell tandem, why don't you give me their combined numbers there? Because I thought they were super disruptive coming on as edge guys.
5 combined tackles, okay? They had both a solo tackle and they had a sack and a half combined. And they had
2 sacks. They were in
and
on
a tackle for loss and a half.
Keep reading. They were in on 2 sacks, 2 tackles for loss.
Yeah, it's hard to read this on the air. 3 pass breakups for Cassius Howell.
Yeah, he was flying in there,
and 2 quarterback hurries for him as well. With Rylan Kennedy with 1.
So 3 hurries, 2 tackles for loss, 2 sacks. 3 pass breakups. I mean
that's a game
for those 2 guys. That's a hell of a. And Cassius Howell, by the way, though, just by himself there, was really disruptive. I thought that was also his best game. So he had Two-year D linemen had their best game, I think, of the season, and that doesn't even count Scort and Stewart,
right?
Who, along with Howell and Kennedy, were all over Van Buren. And again, like, you give him credit. They got, to get guys like him and Taylon Green, like 3 times each, about 6 sacks of those two guys. If that's a normal quarterback on those Saturdays, those are those games where they would ended up with twice as many. And maybe that'll be Nussmeier this weekend.
Well,
who can, by the way, can scramble around and improvise.
Gordy was telling us he's been sacked twice this year.
Nuss.
Yeah.
He gets rid of the ball and he can improvise, but they also are really good up front. But I would absolutely expect this defensive line still to get after it this weekend.
Yeah, he's thrown 6 interceptions on the year, 18 touchdowns to his 6 interceptions, and 82.5 QBR. But that's a really good offensive line. But matching our defensive line,
I'll always take the great defensive line over the great offensive line. I saw it when A&M had 3 first-round picks on theirs, and the other 2 guys were NFL guys. But you run into a great defensive line, it's like if the O-line can hold their own, you've done a good job. Like, remember when A&M played Bama with all those draft picks? Go back and watch how many times Johnny got out of trouble by scrambling, by, both games. Up here across the street, he was running around. Remember that play where he spin and throw it up to Ed Pope? And, I mean, you have plays where obviously Jokel and Matthews and Said and those guys had great protection. But when you're going up against an elite D-line as an offensive line, like a lot of times it's like if you avert disaster during the game, you've done a good job because those guys will just get after it, and they'll get after you. I mean, there were a lot of NFL guys on Jimbo's first line here.
Mm-hmm.
They ended up being seniors and playing really good. Dan Moore, Ryan McCollum, who I think, didn't we see him starting last night in the NFL? Like, what a cool story. I love one of the all-time good guys. But that O-line, it was Hawker, Cullum, Dan Moore. Who else was in that group? Well, McCoy was on it this year I'm talking about at Mississippi State. But what I'm getting at is they had Simmons and who's the DN? Montez Sweat. Those guys kicked A&M's ass. You couldn't. And those were NFL linemen they were going against. But they're just, sometimes when the D-line is that good, it is really tough to contain. And that's what I think LSU has to contend with. And A&M will too, because LSU's got some real edge guys over there. That'll be a problem.
Do you buy that?
Especially number 4.
Do you buy that the defense is significantly improved?
Yeah, but to what? Because I saw Ole Miss should have, and Trey Harris was unavailable for a lot of that. Like he was hurt, and they should have done a lot more than they did. When you watch that game, you saw Ole Miss, and you go, they have no running game anymore other than Jackson Dart. Like Henry Parrish is not it. And then they played Arkansas. And I said ahead of time, if Taylon Green isn't Taylon Green and running around and doing his thing,
they can't win.
They're a lot easier to defend. They're actually very easy to defend. So do I think they're improved? Hell yeah. Is Whit Weeks the catalyst? Without question. I mentioned the pass rushers. They're a lot better. Do I think that's a high-end SEC defense? No. And I think the reason why is what they've got on the back end. I think they can be had back there. They're going to have to protect Connor and let him make throws down the field.
One thing I don't think you and I have really touched on much is A&M's third down conversion rate, not only in Mississippi State, but this season. They've been really good. I don't have the rankings. I don't know if you can look that up. Top 25 in the country per Nick there on the headsets.
Yeah.
Top 25. But it just feels like when they need a big third down, Con Klein schemes it up the right way, man. There's some great play calling.
I'm confident in when when A&M has a key third down in that game the other day, and I actually had the thought go through my head where it was completely different reason. But when like A&M with Johnny was in like a 3rd and 8, I felt good about it. Like we all did.
Yeah.
3rd and 8, okay, well, either there's going to be an open receiver or he's going to take off and run and they can't
100%.
tackle him. It was the only time in my football watching life I felt so good about 3rd and 8s. It's like I watched it with Joe Burrow and LSU that 2019 season. I felt the same way, but it's rare that you have an offense that if it's like 3rd and 8 to 3rd and 12, you're like, you can probably get this.
Yep.
I'm not saying that's the case, but it's totally different. What I feel good about is like short yardage, they line up, and the reason I mention this is because we felt so bad about it for the last few years. But it's like you're going to line up in short yardage, and I need to get from me to you. I watched Colin Klein's offense and pre-snap. I'm like, he's going to have a good run play drawn up here. They're going to get a crease, and they're going to get the first down, and they're going to punch it into the end zone from inside the 3. Like they're really efficient at that too, of scoring there inside the like 2-yard line, whether it's Moss or Daniels. So there's a lot of things I like about where this offense is headed, but that's one of the things that now, like as I'm sitting there watching them, I'm like really confident they'll get that done. And by the way, we said Mississippi State, well, they played better off defense this week and they were getting after it, and those things are true. You go look at that stat sheet, brother, and those tackles for loss are what, Jackson? I think I should have had, here it is right here. 11-1 in an entire football game. You play an SEC defense, and I know like they haven't been good against the run, and they did a better job against A&M. Of course, Le'Veon Moss had about 70 yards
taken off the board,
rushing, taken off the board on 2 plays. So he had Le'Veon's numbers don't look very good, right? It was the first game, one of those games, rare games that he averaged like under 4 a carry, but
it wouldn't have been.
Le'Veon had 17 for 65, 3.6 a carry, but he did score 2 touchdowns. But he should have had like another minimum, like it's more than this, but let's say it's 60 yards. He's sitting at 125 on 19 carries. And that's really how he performed, especially that 40-yarder. You just want to not take that one away, because I'll say I didn't really get a good look at the hold on the first one, so it could have been a perfectly good call. The second one I know was not. But look, you get 1 tackle for loss,
0 sacks.
for 1 yard lost. 1 yard lost in a game against Mississippi State. I talked about those old defenses with Simmons and Sweat. That's not there anymore. But Mississippi State, how many plays did they have? 77 plays they ran. So in 77, I'm sorry, Mississippi State's plays.
A&M.
But in 77 plays,
I think A&M was like 71, 72.
A&M got, in 77 snaps, they got them behind the line 11 times, okay, for 44 lost yards. The lost yardage there is 43, a difference of 43 yards. But they ran, 62 plays. A&M, 1 tackle behind the line for a 1 yard loss. That is how you win football games.
And also 0 sacks, Billy.
Yeah, again. I say again, they had a couple of, but I mean, that number is exceptionally low, especially compared to where they've come from.
All right, we're talking a little Milliken Reserve now, farm to the table community in College Station. They got homes, they got trails, they got wide open spaces. They got a mission to build a healthy community around nature, and they've done so by treading lightly on the land that you can find Milliken Reserve on. They have awesome events, great real estate. You can buy a house out there. You can just go out there and enjoy life. Volunteer at the farm is coming up on the 26th. You got farm stand, you got day at play, you got trail running with the Lone Star Trail Runners. So many cool events happening here, Gardening 101, Winter Garden Prep. You name it, they're going to be doing it out there. Go out there, go for a nice walk, go for a nice hike, go fishing, kayaking, you name it. The website is millikenreserve.com. That is millikenreserve.com. Flashing some lights on all the position groups on TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. I just did an OB. I looked at Jackson. I made eye contact when I made a stupid line. We're here in the Rollo Insurance Studio. Hey, and by the way, OBs aren't stupid. It's just, we get some juicy headlines here. Can we talk for a moment tight ends? Because I feel like every game, there's a play from them. You're like, oh, there they are. Like, they're not getting a lot of the looks, but nobody is really. Like, as you mentioned earlier, it's pretty spread out. But I feel like every game, pretty much, there is a play or two from those tight ends. You're like, that's a memorable moment. And that was the Trey Watson one on 3rd and 23.
What did we see in Missouri and Arkansas? I felt like they were fairly quiet in the passing game in those two games. It doesn't mean they're not. I think they're doing a better and better job of blocking, too. But that's why this week before this game, I was calling for it because I felt like we'd see. I think I put the over-under. I thought they might catch 4 passes, so I was wrong there. I thought they might combine to catch 4 this week. I think it was just the one, but it was a huge play by Trey Watson. Those guys, I think, are tough to cover because of their size, and in Trey, both of them, they're big and athletic, and I think they've got good hands. Jackson, how many?
Arkansas, Trey had 1 catch.
Yep, the touchdown. That was
nothing in the Missouri game.
Yeah, and that was so a big play.
So I'm wrong.
Oh, but a big play against Arkansas. It was a touchdown.
Yeah.
It was the game-winning touchdown, as a matter of fact. So just because there wasn't a high degree of difficulty, he was wide open. Let's not act like that wasn't a huge play. So, yeah, I think those guys. The interesting thing about this receiving core is, again, will it be Jabri Barber with a second straight good game? Will it be Terry Bussey getting back in the mix against a team that recruited him really hard in LSU? Will it be Noah Thomas on some deep balls and some, maybe he gets in the end zone a couple times? Will it be Ja'Day Walker with a clutch catch down the field, or will it be one of the tight ends? They've got a lot of weapons, and also it goes without saying they've in this offense, the running back out of the backfield is a very real threat.
Well, let's give some time to Amari Daniels then, too, because we did talk Le'Veon. But Amari Daniels, every game has been solid for them. I think he had 47 in this one. Am I right about that? 48.
Thank you. Amari Daniels, Albert Regis, I think the two kind of like unsung, not talked about enough guys on this roster. Week in and week out. There's some unsung guys that, like, you just never know when they're going to have a really big, impactful game or moment. But week in and week out, what those two guys provide, it's really significant to this football team.
Yep.
With Regis, a starter, and Amari, your first back off the bench in the rotation, but and he runs hard. I noticed that last year when they played Miami. It's the first time I really went, man, he
runs hard.
God, he's running hard. And then he had the long kind of game-saving run against Auburn. Then he had the long run to kind of break that South Carolina game, break their back. By the way, you talk about an improved football team like South Carolina. When they came in here last year, they were so bad. Rattler, like they sucked. They weren't competitive. And then you've seen some games where the time before that when South Carolina came in here, so you watch them play and what they did to OU this weekend, you go, man, this is a really tough back-to-back for the Aggies. And if they can come out of this with 2 wins, it's like I think you can expect them to be in the playoff. I think you can expect them to be in the playoff if they come out of this with 2 wins, because if they can beat LSU at home, a red-hot LSU, then go on the road and beat South Carolina in Columbia after they get a bye week. It's their homecoming. That'll be as tough a road test as just about anybody in college football will face that weekend. And if they come out of those 2, then I'd feel really good about them handling Auburn. And then you're playing Texas you might already be in, depending on how things go, but you're playing them for a berth in the SEC title game. Big if, because these teams are freaking good that you're about to play back-to-back.
Do you think an SEC SEC championship game where you've got 2 losses and you lose in the SEC championship game will cause you a chance at the playoffs?
Say that again, how you said it.
Okay, so let's say there's a 2-loss team in the SEC championship.
And they go to 3.
And they go to 3.
It just depends. Yes, it can. It can.
So for some teams, it may make more sense to, I don't know if I want to play in this game.
Yeah, but you don't get that choice.
No, I know.
So to not play in that, I guess with what you're saying, if you want to have some fun, and why not? People I'm not saying this is going to happen, and I'm certainly at the point where I'm not saying it can't happen. There are 5 SEC teams that can have fun with this right now. It's A&M, it's LSU, it's Georgia, obviously, it's Texas, and it's Tennessee. There are 5 teams that can have fun with this without having to do it where they need help from other people.
Right.
So let's have fun with it. Let's not be scared of talking about it. Let's not enjoy the moment here as you're about to play the biggest game in college football. It's the 3rd time you're playing a top 10 team at home where you go in truly believing you have a chance to win. It's the 2nd time in 8 games under Mike Elko that the true national spotlight will be on your team and program. Enjoy it. Embrace it. Embrace 10-point wins on the road in the SEC when you're not on your A-plus game. Embrace that. Be happy about that. Don't cry about it. Don't project. Don't go, oh, my God, we suck. No one's saying we suck, but don't be like, oh, my God, we can't beat LSU. We played like that. We can't do it. It's not just, if you've learned anything this year in the SEC, it's not week-to-week transitive anymore because everybody's too equal. And everybody, when you're equal, you're playing these highly emotional games, and then you're coming down, whether you want to or not. Then you play 2 in a row, and then it gets really tough after that. So that's the year. That's the SEC this year. But we're going to enjoy this, and I'll say, if you want to play hypothetical, hypothetical. If you want to play hypothetical, yeah, like let's say Georgia won out, and Texas already has 1 loss. So in this hypothetical, you would, I hate saying the words, but you would lose to Texas at Kyle Field. And because if you lost Saturday or to South Carolina, you'd still, or here's one. How about I hate saying it this week too, but you lose to LSU,
but you went out.
and they lose, or they went out and they've got 1 loss, and you beat Texas at home, and you see what I'm saying. The only way where I would say, okay, I'd rather not go to an SEC title game, but I have a hard time with that.
Yeah.
I have a hard time saying that.
We need to go to Atlanta.
I would rather them go to Atlanta because they've never been, and because it actually gives you a chance to win a conference championship. You will be playing for a conference championship for the first time since. So, yeah, hell yeah. I want them to be in it. It's weird, like, because you can win it, man. You can win it this year. Any of those teams can win it. Why would you not want to? So, with that said, yeah, for playoff chances, because A&M lost to Notre Dame, if they were a 1-loss SEC team, if there was a 3-way tie and they got left out, they would be a massive beneficiary to be sitting there at 10-2 and likely to get into the playoffs. Not guaranteed with these Indianas of the world, but likely to get into the playoffs as a 10-2 SEC team. Because you'd be 7-1 in the conference. So, yeah, that would make it. That would be the one scenario where you'd go, okay, you could maybe not get in.
What you can't have, though, Billy, is losing your last game of the regular season and back to back. That's where
that's the tough road. But again, we're assuming so I've had people tell me there's no way in hell. Guys, y'all don't know. We haven't watched this thing play out. There's a world where Tennessee, Georgia, Texas, A&M, and LSU could all have 2 losses or less. And hell, I mean, and if it's not all them, maybe it's Ole Miss and they knock one of those guys out of it. But I mean, you could see 5 sitting at 10-2. So you mentioned it, but if you did lose a game, you might be better served to say, hey, our playoffs start now. and we're playing in the SEC title game, we can get a freaking ring. We can break a 25-year streak around here. We can build something to just ride this thing eventually to a national title. And maybe it's you get in that playoff and you see what you can do this year when things are wide open. But the reality is, those if there's a glut of 10-2 teams, let's say there's 4 of them, a couple of them might need to play in that title game and say, okay, we're going to roll the dice. You don't get to pick, but like if we lose it, we might be out. We might be out.
But if we
don't know how these people are going to pick a 3-loss SEC team that played for the title when other teams didn't have to do that, much less in this league against, either a Georgia or whoever, like a top 3 team in the country. Or does that loss push you out? You don't know that, but you do know if you win the SEC, you're in. So it's going to be. It's a great point. We don't know if it's going to come to that or not. I mean, hell, you want to have some fun. Just say it could be an 8-0 in the SEC A&M against a 7-1 Georgia or a 7-1 Texas. It wouldn't be a 7-1 Texas. It would be a 7-2.
2 Texas. Yeah,
they probably wouldn't be in.
Right.
So. Everybody's talking about rematch. If the Aggies in Texas, or what if you play LSU again? What if this is a SEC title preview? You just don't know. Now, what my gut tells me is Georgia will be in there. I think they beat Tennessee. That's in Athens. I don't think Ole Miss has what it takes to beat that football team.
Yeah, the hardest part of their schedule is beyond them, but they still got some games. They host.
They've beaten Clemson and Texas so far. I can't believe, in hindsight, that they lost to Bama, and much less we're down 28-0 to those guys. But Bama owns them, man.
They own them. They got a bye. We'll get into more SEC storylines, but they got a bye week. Then they host Florida. Then they go to Ole Miss. Then they still got some games.
It's a tough schedule.
Yeah, and then they got Tennessee coming to them, UMass, and they finish with Georgia Tech.
Haynes King could derail it, but that still doesn't change the SEC. So. I think Georgia's going to be one of the two. After what I saw and looking at that schedule, and unless that game was in Knoxville, I wouldn't give it much. I think Georgia's going to be in there, and I think A&M's playing. It's almost like South Carolina in Auburn. Like if you beat LSU, and you just say, okay, if they split those two, it really is like A&M, Texas, LSU, the Aggies in those 2 games, if you told me today they were going to win this Saturday and catch Texas at home, it's going to be A&M in Georgia. And I think the team that wins this game Saturday night is going to be the,
in Atlanta. It's still some football, though, man.
There's a lot of football. It's tough to say. It's tougher to say. I say it's tough to say for A&M. LSU would still have to beat Bama. I don't know who else they have. It's not
that hard.
Theirs is not tough at all. But again, I think people are forgetting that LSU lost to a bad USC team. They were down 17-0 at South Carolina.
This is their stretch right here. They got A&M. They host Bama. They go to Florida, and they host Vandy. Then they host Oklahoma.
Okay, guess what? That's tough.
That is.
But
in this tough. SEC, especially the ones that because there isn't a clear-cut big dog.
Yeah. So, anyway, I still think the winner of this game, let's just say, has the real inside track.
With a lot left.
And I think Georgia's going to chew up one of those spots, man. That's why, believe it or not, Texas winning would have, I think, been a better scenario for everybody.
Yeah, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Moment for Lewis Engineering. They're headquartered in Marshall, Texas. Started back in 1961. Doug Lewis is the guy running the show there. He's an Aggie class of 2004. His great-grandfather started it during the Vietnam War, making handheld signal flares. And by the way, they make those to this day. They're a place to go when you're looking to get help in these big turnkey productions. 100-piece high production, they are there for you. They specialize in high-volume matching and machining, metal plating projects. And they mostly do manufacturing for munitions for the U.S. Department of Defense, but they're looking to take on any machining or metal fabrication project. Aerospace industry they're part of, automotive, you name it. They're a turnkey supplier, metal plating, metal painting, salt spray. They work nationally but also internationally, And again, a good Aggie is running them. Check out the website, lewisengineeringco.com. That is lewisengineeringco.com. 903-938-6754. Again, 903-938-6754. It's Lewis Engineering. We'll be back on TexAgs Live. We're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. We're in the Rollo Insurance Studio, hour number 3 of the program, coming to a close. Working on getting some good LSU guests on the show this week, and obviously some ESPN personnel. Reminder, we'll be at the Angry Elephant on Friday doing the show 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. in South College Station. Come hang out with us. All right, Billy, we've talked about playoff scenarios and what it can mean for several teams, but let's talk about some of the action that we saw over the weekend. We touched on it, but South Carolina, man, they're a team that they worry me. Obviously, I'm more worried about LSU for this weekend, but just overall, they certainly, that defense can beat anybody.
Yeah.
Sellers is the truth. Like, he's a legit quarterback. I'm giving them their props.
I mean, look, you see their record, and it doesn't scare you, right? They name a game where they weren't impressive. They beat the brakes off of Kentucky. Their loss to LSU, they were up 17-0 before Sellers got hurt. And then they also had the pick six that would have ended the game. Not ended, but they're like a 99% winnability rate at that point, if that counts. It's a block behind the play. It had nothing to do with whether he scored or not. It's a silly call they make now because they rule out judgment. They didn't go clean up Nussmeier and injure him, or it wasn't like a cheap shot. It was just a block behind the play, and it's a penalty. But my point is it had nothing to do with the pick six and the return for a touchdown. And they couldn't, they're backed up, and then they didn't do anything, and LSU won. But they played LSU essentially on even footing. And they go to Bama. They almost win that game, and we're starting to see, like, Bama's not that good, but they don't suck, and they certainly don't in Tuscaloosa. Just ask Georgia. And South Carolina could have won that game. I would not say should have. Bama let them kind of hang in it. They had their chances, but they played Bama to the last play. They took LSU to game down, and they humiliated Oklahoma. It reminded me, and it should be a wake-up call for Aggies, reminded me of what happened the last time A&M went up there to Columbia, where they got blitzed, and it was 17-0 right off the rip, which is what they did to LSU. It's what they did to Oklahoma, so they'll get after you. And when they get that momentum, they'll come after you for a block, kick, or a special teams play. So, and by the way, they're twice as good at that stadium. They are twice as good over there. So that's a scary game, but I mean,
they all are.
Here's the thing. We want to sit here and talk about you want to play for an SEC title, you want to reach a college football playoff. That's all well and good. You got to go win a game against a team like South Carolina at South Carolina, who's probably going to be, I don't know if they'll be, did the rankings come out today? I'm assuming they're still unranked. I think they're better than that. But South Carolina probably come into that game unranked. So we can be scared of them all we want. The fact is,
they'll be unranked.
The fact is, three people have beat them,
I can't read that.
Ole Miss went up there and beat them 27-3.
Yeah.
LSU went in there and beat them. So is it scary? Yeah. Is it daunting? Yeah. Do you want to be a college football playoff team? Do you want to play for an SEC title? Do you want that game against Texas to be for all the marbles? If you're good enough for all those things to be true, then that football team goes and wins in South Carolina. And no one on God's green earth would say it will be easy.
I'm not predicting this, but how interesting would it be for Vandy to get bowl eligible beating Texas this weekend? They were 25th.
Is that what you call that? Would that be interesting? Because I can think of a lot of other adjectives. Why am
I got other words. So I've been struggling to speak today. I can't speak.
I haven't. I did it on purpose. I wanted to emphasize adjectives. I said adjectives. Some people actually say that in real life. Adjectives. It's not how you say it.
Adjectives.
Adjectives. And I got a lot of other ones I would use than interesting. If Vandy beat Texas.
Hilarious. Awesome.
Epic. Grandiose.
Groundbreaking.
Watershed moment for
Historic.
All the world. Historic. I mean, there's a million of them, but I'm way more concerned. I would use all those adjectives too if A&M beats LSU at Kyle Field. I don't give a damn I told you yesterday. I don't give a damn what Texas does against Vandy. If A&M
I care about Vandy.
If A&M keeps winning, No, the Texas stuff is just bonus.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody with a rival, you want them to lose, especially a hated rival. That's just bonus. That's house money. But it does help A&M's, by the way, it does help A&M's chances of playing in Atlanta would be Texas to lose another game. I mean, there's somewhere along the way, if the Horns lose another one, meaning this team, could make that game not mean anything. I just keep winning.
Do you need Missouri to beat Alabama too?
Bama's already got 2
losses, or do you need Bama to beat Missouri?
You beat Missouri.
But if they have 1 loss.
You beat them.
Yeah. Don't have a loss in conference.
They do.
No, I'm saying you don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
you control your destiny.
I'm not worried about Missouri. I think Missouri will lose the game. I mean, I think they should have lost that. They're not.
Yeah.
And even with Brady, they're not good. Okay, so I left them out of my mix of teams with a chance, and I think I did that on purpose. I don't think I overlooked them. But no, Texas and Vandy, really interesting matchup because Quinn I think he gets tentative when he doesn't see it and he's not seeing it good. And all quarterbacks do. And again, you heard Elko say about Connor and his feet. He wasn't settled. Quinn does that a lot. And that's all I've been trying to say about the guys. He's a really good quarterback. I just don't know if he's elite. And I think what Clark Lee and Vandy can do defensively, scheme-wise, could be a little problematic. And then the whole key will be, can Pavia, Stowers, and company keep that offense off the field?
Right.
Where Texas has this huge athleticism and size advantage. Can they keep them off the field like they did Bama?
We had a break here. We'll come back with some short words on the other side. Right now, we're talking Heritage Films. That is Chancellor McLean's company that make documentary films. The website is yourheritagefilm.com. Have a documentary done on your family business, your family ranch, on your grandfather, your dad, your grandmother, whoever it may be. Have that story told in a 2-hour Netflix-style documentary that Chance and his team will put together. It is awesome. We did it for my pops. I know a lot of people who have done it. Family members have done it. Aggies all over the place have done it. And it seems like Aggies care about their story more than anybody because that's who calls Chance more than anybody. He's told me that before he started here at TexAgs, and obviously with TexAgs, it's blown up. The website, yourheritagefilm.com, 713-893-8341. Yourheritagefilm.com, 713-893-8341. It's Heritage Films. Here we go. It's TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. If you're looking for a reason to come back to Aggieland or are already in Aggieland looking for a great opportunity, you should reach out to the Association of Former Students. They're looking to hire professionals in several different departments, marketing, fundraising, sales. There's a lot of different areas that they're hiring at different times throughout the year. They are the nation's premier alumni association and oldest organization serving A&M in support of that Aggie network. Don't miss an opportunity to help out with Howdy Socials, Aggie Reading Day, class reunions, Aggie Muster, and everything in between. If you're interested in joining a team or sharing with someone who would be a great fit, please visit tx.ag/association jobs to apply and get more information on each position. Still got about a minute and a half left. This came across my timeline. I think you'll appreciate it.
Okay.
The Departed, released 18 years ago today. I like that movie. You don't care.
No, I'm happy for it.
You're happy for me that I like a movie?
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm happy that you're happy.
I didn't. Sometimes I don't know what movies you like and don't like. So yeah.
Well, I just don't like Jim Carrey movies.
I didn't either, but until I did. So
I did like that one movie, Man on the Moon. That was fantastic.
Yeah, his most
serious role.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love comedies. Beverly Hills Cop. Love it.
You also like the second one of both of those movies, which again makes me really question.
Beverly Hills Cop 2?
Yeah.
Was good.
And you liked Coming to America
3 was
too.
horrible.
And you liked Coming to America too. You said
No, I didn't watch
thing.
it. I didn't watch Coming to America.
I don't.
I haven't watched it.
I don't believe that.
100%.
It makes me question everything about your musical and movie taste. Bad Bunny.
Yeah, the biggest global music superstar. Go look the numbers. He's right behind you.
Welcome to America.
Yeah. Oh, really? Did you just say that right now?
Yeah. Bad Bunny and Beverly Hills Cop 2.
Steve McGee joined the Bad Bunny team.
Exactly.
He is America.
Exactly.
Thanks so much for joining us, Billy. Appreciate
Olin
that.
Buchanan's America, not Stephen McGee.
Oh, yeah? 1775 joke coming in 3, 2, 1. See you tomorrow.